Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I'm Julian Mush. I'm joined by Rachel Wilkinson.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about today the Book of Boba Fett, Season 1, Episode 7, In the Name of Honor. This is written by Jon Favreau and Noah Clure, directed by Robert Rodriguez, the third episode he's directed this season. If you're new to the show, we're going to recap everything. We're going to break it all down into the most smallest little pieces that even Grogu could eat. And then we're going to kind of recap the episode in a way that we, just kind of close it all up, and then we'll look at what might be coming next. It's hard to say. We don't even know if there's a Book of Boba Fett Season 2, but we will talk about what that might look like at the end. Before we get into that, I will mention a couple things. Please follow us on Twitter at TowerBabbleCast, Facebook.com/TowerBabbleCast, and head over to our website, TowerBabble.ca, to find everything that we do, including the main show. We just posted a new episode, a news episode that we haven't done in a long time, to the Tower Babble podcast feed. And it was a fun one. We talked a little bit about Jurassic World. I didn't know that the trailer was going to drop today, so that's a little unfortunate. But we did talk about the Oscar nominations. Those did drop on Tuesday, so that was fun. And lots of other cool stuff, including, by the way, we talked a little bit more about the Luke Skywalker of it all. Turns out his voice is completely synthetic, and that's crazy. So we might get into that a little bit later. Yeah, we'll touch on that. Another little bit of news, I guess. Speaking about news shows, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. They waited until the very end of Book of Boba Fett was done before they announced anything else.
Anything, yeah.
Jeremy was like, "When are we getting a trailer? What's the deal?" There's a whole Twitter account that's dedicated to if there's an Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer, and it just tweets out every day, "No."
I like that. I'm gonna go follow that
until it says yes. So there is no trailer, but we did get a poster. We got a new poster. We get a shot of Obi-Wan on a mysterious desert planet. I wonder what it could be. We haven't spent any time there recently. And he's holding what looks like to be Anakin's lightsaber, which, of course, he later gives to Luke in A New Hope. And then we got a release date, May 25th, because literally on Tuesday when I was talking about this with Jeremy, I was like, oh, they said it's going to come out in May. And I was like, well, for sure, May the 4th then. Right? That's what they're going to be. May 25th.
It's coming on the 25th. What? That's rude, Star Wars.
Why is that? Why do you consider that rude?
That's literally because so there's the Star Wars celebration.
Yes.
Is that following weekend, and that's my travel day to go out to Anaheim. So rude. I'm gonna be busy traveling and doing stuff in Anaheim.
Well,
I'll probably have time to watch it, but I'm gonna have to watch it on a laptop.
You can. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's not ideal. Maybe you can find a.
No. You're
going to be in Anaheim. Maybe they'll have it on a movie theater or something.
Oh, that'd be cool. I bet you I could just find someone's house to go watch it at. I'll just tweet a bunch. Shout out if anyone lives in Anaheim.
I'm in town for Star Wars Celebration. Who's gonna help me watch the show?
If any
I just need your TV.
Patrons here are from Anaheim, let me know.
Right. Oh, speaking of which, if you want to help support the show, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/TowerBabbleCast. We do a monthly film club. This month is going to be Gone Girl, David Fincher's Gone Girl. So look forward to that if you're a Patreon subscriber. Last month we did Misery, based on a Stephen King novel. And it was really fun. So you can find those all on our Patreon page, along with, of course, everything else we do. Okay, let's get into this episode, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The log line here for, again, the name of the episode, In the Name of Honor. Boba Fett and Fennec Shand face an escalating conflict. Useless information. But in the name of honor, obviously there's a line in the episode. This is kind of just quoting Mando from later in the episode. But can you think of other usages for this title?
Honestly, it was pretty much only the Mando thing for me, I guess. Other than maybe just Boba Fett willing to protect the town for honor.
The name of honor. Yeah, but that's kind of what he's talking about at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I don't really.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's not their best title. I still, for my money, by the way, we haven't got into the whole season recap of it all yet, but for my money, episode 2 is still the best, and that title I believe was The Tribes of Tatooine. Great
yeah,
title.
that was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a very good one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
Yeah.
like I mentioned before, Jon Favreau, Noah Kluwer, directed by Robert Rodriguez. Robert Rodriguez getting a lot of hate on Twitter.
Is he?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. People just tweeting out like funny cuts and like weird decisions from this episode.
Is it the spin?
The spin is getting a lot of hate. Yeah, the little
The
spin shoot
was stupid.
Yeah, there's
so
a lot
unnecessary. And it didn't
there's a
even
lot
look
of
cool.
unnecessary stuff in this. I feel like this episode is a mess, just generally speaking. Yeah, I mean, we might as well just talk about the episode as a
we'll
whole
just
here.
get into it.
I think it's there. I saw a tweet from a guy. Actually, I do respect the Slash Film, Peter Soretta, over at slashfilm.com, and he was like, "Listen, I'm not trying to throw any hate or anything, but like, I would be fine if Robert Rodriguez never directed any more Star Wars."
That's so mean.
And I'm like, I kind of. Here's my take on this. I don't think he did a very good job this season. All 3 episodes that he directed were the weakest of the season, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's not even close. It's like, it's probably episode 2 at the top, then episode 4, then episode 5 and 6, then episodes, 1, 3, and 7 in that order.
Yeah.
And I just think maybe it's stylistically he doesn't fit, and as much as it, like, I don't want to again just bash somebody for maybe not fitting, but I think it's fair to critique some of the decisions here that were made.
Yeah, and especially when you have multiple different directors, it's very hard not to compare and contrast and be like, okay, like, it's just natural to do that when there's that many different directors. So I mean, someone's got to be the worst.
Well, I mean, I'm not even like that's the thing. It's not just that he's the worst of the season. It's that his style, and this is that. So he even goes back to the episode of Mandalorian. Oh,
because he's Ice Spiders, right?
No, he's the episode of the Boba Fett where he returns. The episode with
Oh, right. Sorry, my bad.
Where the Razor Crest is destroyed.
Yeah, you thought it looked ugly.
I think that episode does look ugly. It's lit weird. I know it's shot outside, but there's something you can do to make it look a little more glossy, I think. And
I remember now.
This episode, like, it just, all of his episodes here, it's just like he has baggage as a like legacy director. He's been in the industry a long time. I like his movies, most of them. I like them. I even liked Spy Kids movies when I was a kid. And again, I know there's a lot of like arguments that this show is for kids, Star Wars is for kids. I get that. But there's a distinction between a show that's, just for kids, like Spy Kids is,
right,
and something that can appeal to a broader audience. And I would argue needs to.
I wouldn't. Not that I'm not going to say that like Star Wars isn't for kids. It's like Star Wars is for everybody. I'm just like, there's a very big difference between, like you said, like Spy Kids or the first season of Clone Wars compared to what we're getting now. Like this, there's still murder, and murder isn't for children. So, and
that's
drug
true.
dealing and that kind of stuff, like that kind of content.
It's pretty lightweight violence, I would say, except for the very end of this episode, which has some. But as the mayor just choked out, just a garrote wire hung from the ceiling. Anyway. I just think that it's fair to critique Robert Rodriguez's job here, and I don't think he did a very good job. And it comes down to, I think he just stylistically does not fit what Star Wars is trying to do. And it's like, I wish him the best. I'm happy for him. He got to direct a bunch of Star Wars. That's awesome. And his favorite character and all that kind of stuff.
Well, to me, it's not like he butchered it. Like, I don't think it was so terrible that it was unwatchable or anything. It just didn't really match some of the other things we saw, and some of the other things were so good that it just kind of dims in comparison.
It lacks weight. It feels very fluffy. And there's episodes of The Mandalorian that there's episodes of this season that feature The Mandalorian that don't feel fluffy. They have emotional weight, that have bearing on the larger story. This is this big battle in Mos Espa. It takes up over half the episode. Robert Rodriguez is known for his action, but I think the action here is poor. I don't think it's well directed, and I don't think it's very kinetic or exciting. And that's
Fair enough.
by the way, talking about an episode that features Boba Fett riding a Rancor, which that sentence in and of itself is very cool, and there's moments that are very cool with that
There are,
idea.
yeah.
But
like, there's some
overall,
pretty
like
badass
it just
moments.
feels small and unimportant, and I don't care about any of these characters. And that's I care about Mando and I care about Grogu, but in the context of this episode, I even care about Boba and Fennec. I care. Those are basically it, though.
Right.
I would
No,
say.
I agree with that.
And in the context of this episode, I even don't care that much about them. It's like I feel like I saw Grogu flying off that taxi thing, and I'm like, I wasn't worried or concerned.
No.
It just everything was too light. So I think
yeah.
that's a damning, in my opinion, of Robert Rodriguez's skills here. I just think he can do a better job, or maybe he brought a specific. Like I said, it's brought a specific style that just doesn't vibe, at least with me. I don't know. What did you think of the overall? What did you think of the episode?
Okay, so I would agree with some points. There were definitely some things that pulled me out of it a little bit that made me laugh, and like not that it was supposed to make me laugh,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
I maybe wouldn't be quite as harsh. Like I did think that some of the fight scenes were good. I liked finally seeing Boba Fett in action a little bit more. I
Right.
had no issues with like any of the Rancor stuff. I thought that all
Still
looked really
loses the fight though.
good.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
And there were moments where I got a little scared for some of the characters that I cared about, but I could have. This is going to sound so mean. I would have liked to see more deaths in characters that I didn't care about. Like, I would have liked to see way more of those mods die.
I'd like to see
it would have
more
been
of the
fine
mods die.
if they all died.
Well, I can understand that.
I just
really
because
do.
they don't hold a lot of like weight for me, I guess. So I don't know. It's fine. But yeah, no, overall, there was a lot of moments that I was like super excited for. There's some moments that I got a little upset about until they resolve later on, and we can get to it as we go through. But yeah, I get what you mean, that it could have just used a little bit more. It's just so hard. I feel like it's so hard on Tatooine to make things look good, but
it could have been done. I don't know why this didn't have to be done during the day. This didn't have to be. It could have been done at night. That would have been. That would have added some weight to it, I think.
You're right. Actually, at night would have looked a lot better.
I don't understand. I just feel like there's a lot of choices here. It's really hard to articulate what it is about this episode that makes it feel so lifeless. And I don't. It could be that there's a bunch of bait and switches where they're like, oh, did this character die? Oh, maybe not. Or did this person die? Oh, maybe not. Right. But they'll kill the Gamorrean guards. They'll knock those off the bridge, off the cliff.
I know.
That sucks.
I know.
So I mean,
that's what I mean. I could have kept some characters and got rid of others.
Yeah. So in stark contrast to all this stuff, I've been watching another show that I watched the entire series in 3 days, and that was Arcane season 1 on Netflix. Now, if you're a fan of the Clone Wars style animation, it's very similar to that, but about 10 times better looking. We'll
have to check it out.
Probably the best looking animated thing I've ever seen. It's awesome. It's based on League of Legends video game, but don't hold that against it. It's able to make you care about I don't know any of these characters. I've never met them before. I have no attachment to them from video games or anything. But
so you can watch it without playing the games.
Exactly. I went into the show, and you're instantly attached to these characters. There's lots of them, and there's lots of political intrigue and back and forth stuff. The action's interesting. It just feels like the exact opposite of what the Book of Boba Fett was trying to do, because they had a lot of the same goals, a lot of characters that we've met and in some cases care about. But for whatever reason, this show made them Teflon. Like, you couldn't, every feeling you had just bounced off of it. Again, except for maybe season 2 or episode 2, where they made you care about the Tuskens right before they killed them in episode 3. So make that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's get into this a little bit more. We can kind of pick apart the individual elements here. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so it starts in Mos Espa. We're at Garcia's sanctuary, picking up right after the events of the explosion that ended last week's episode. There's this really cool establishing shot of the city. It's probably the best establishing shot we've ever seen. A little bit closer, but still above the cliffs. There's a really cool tower I noticed just like over top of the cliffs overlooking Mos Espa. Anyway, I
Yeah.
thought that was a cool shot.
I always forget how big like Mos Espa and Mos Eisley like
They don't
are,
make it
and
feel very big.
they don't. And then when you like see those big shots, I'm like, oh yeah, like they're huge. They
Yeah.
always just seem so small to me. I always assume they're like 10 streets.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that Freetown is like not even 10 streets. It's one.
No, Freetown is like
Right.
a little. It's like one of those western towns,
Backwater
right? Where it's
town,
just
yeah.
literally one road, but
Right, and
4 buildings.
Mos Eisley is like not huge. It's not as big as Mos Espa, but like it's big
Yeah.
enough. You know,
Yeah.
we don't really get establishing shot. We don't see as much of that. We do a little bit at night in this episode, but
Mhm.
it's fine. Anyway, so in the ruins of Garcia's sanctuary, it's Fennec and Boba, and they're talking. They just be like, "There's a cool line here. Probably cooler written on the page than it's performed. We're at war, right?"
Yeah.
Boba and Fennec discuss their chances and the potential scorched earth outcome. Even if we win, what is there going to be left? That's a kind of a classic
Yeah, exactly.
debate.
Like, mhm.
Mando arrives, and Fennec is like, "That was fast," which I thought was funny. But they also do that again later with Bane. So I guess they were gone for like half a day. But even though the thing exploded at night, I guess he got back just the first thing in the morning. So they thought it would take
Right.
longer. I don't know. I thought that was
Yeah.
like, why do we need to even address how long it took? It just show up and just have a conversation, whatever. So he's negotiated a deal with Freetown in which they'll help Boba for free if they agree to shut down the spice trade on Tatooine. And Fennec doesn't approve. She thinks, quote, "There's a lot of money to be made from that orange powder," she says.
Yeah.
And this is, by the way, this is a nod to, there's a couple references to Godfather in this episode. This is one of them. In the Godfather, they talk about the drug trade. They're not really interested. The Corleones aren't really interested because they feel like it's bad for business or whatever. They're not into the drug trade stuff. So they're more traditional classic gangsters. Just protection
murder.
money. Yeah, murder and protection schemes, brackets.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the other thing too. It's like everyone's bowing at him at the end of this episode. It's like he's still a crime lord, like whatever. Boba accepts the terms. There's again the cool Godfather reference, and just basically says doesn't believe that spice is good for the city. It's killing our people, which is again that line from Godfather. Boba is concerned that Cobb Vanth won't keep his word. He's like, "Are you sure they're coming?" And Mando's like, "Yeah, positive. Don't you worry. I got everything under control." Of course, we know that Cobb Vanth was shot after he left, so he doesn't. They don't know that. And then there's that great line. I think actually is a great reading. He's like, "If he does not come, we are doomed." From Boba.
Yeah.
Right. Boba proposes that they go back to Jabba's palace to wait for reinforcements. The mods disagree. In fact, this might be the most lines that this other mod. What's his name?
That's like Dash and something.
There's Drash, and crap.
It's like Craig.
Scad.
Scad.
Yeah.
Craig.
Can't believe we forgot those names. So catchy. Scad is like, he's like, "That's a bad idea," and Boba's like, "Excuse me, you can talk." And and I know we talked on the phone the other day. I know that, but still.
Yeah.
So he says that you can't abandon the people. Actually, that's like his line, and then Drash takes over, and because she's the chatty one, she takes over, and she's like, "You can't abandon the people of Mos Espa and hide in your fortress." So he's like, "Okay, good argument. We'll stay." All right, fair enough. The stakes are set. So, cut to Mos Eisley. We're at the Pike headquarters. At the Pike headquarters, Cad Bane reports that he's taking care of the Freetown problem. The mayor of Mos Espa's there. I do like the kind of exchange here. He does convince Vanth to remain neutral, right? He doesn't really reveal what he did, but hey, ask no questions, hear no lies. They're concerned that Boba may try to call upon other reinforcements like the Tuskens, but the Pikes revealed that, what we had already suspected, that they're the ones who took out Boba's Tusken tribe and blamed it on the Speeder Gang, right? I think at one point we're like, ooh, maybe it was Cad Bane who did it and blamed it on the Speeder Gang, but I guess he's just arrived, so it was the first guess that we had, which was that it was a frame job.
Which makes sense, yeah.
It does make some sense. It's just, I guess, like the way that this season's been spread out, it's like it's easy to forget about all that stuff that happened at the beginning of the season.
It's true, yeah.
And this kind of like this whole fake out, and then to reveal that it's a fake out, because to them, he's like, in his mind, the matter was resolved. It is. In fact, they use it again. Bane uses it again to like try to get under his skin later, but that's really all it was for. And he murdered all those bikers for seemingly nothing. You know, I mean, they're shitty people, but like,
yeah, like
did they deserve to die?
They gave us enough shots of those bikers just messing up like good regular people, so to not feel bad about Boba Fett, killing them.
Well, at the time, we were under the impression that it was they were the ones who killed the Tuskens, and we're like, oh, okay, sweet, get their comeuppance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So instead, whatever. So I do like the line here also where he's like, hey, we got to be pragmatic. We have to protect our margins. How businessy of them.
Yeah, he's just like, they're making us pay them. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
The mayor is, and in fact, they were like, oh, we're not going to pay double protection money. They're like, we're willing to pay protection money, but we're not going to pay double. It's like, okay, well, fair enough. That's practical. That's pragmatic. But then they're like, no, we'll just kill everyone. That'll just take care of the problem.
Yeah, we'll just make them kill each other. We'll kill one side, and then exactly.
Yeah. And so the mayor's also concerned about the bombing of the sanctuary. He's like, I didn't sign off for that. Wants surgical strikes to protect the town from ruin. He's like, I'm still the mayor. You can't just destroy the town. I don't think anyone really respects him or cares about what he has to say.
No one cares. Even his own aide has abandoned him. Like,
that's true. Well, wasn't he captured?
I guess he was technically captured. Yeah. But
he's been trying to escape the whole time.
Yeah. Not very hard though. He's kind of in the corner all the time. But
I think he knows better.
Yeah, it's just that typical like mayor figurehead where they think they have more pull with these like crime bosses than they actually do. Right. It's like, no, like, yeah, you run the town, but it's the crime lords who run the town.
You think they're in your pocket, but really you're in their pocket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, dude, there is a good reference to the mayor's multiple stomachs, though, which I thought was funny.
I like that too, yeah.
As much as your two stomachs can bear. I like that. The Pikes mention that the Fett Gotra is hiding in the Garcia sanctuary, and that it'll take quote-unquote extreme measures to remove them. Bane has an idea on how to draw them out. This is coming back to he's going to use that little bit of information that he got from the Pikes to try to get under his skin.
Right.
Smart. Thoughts on the first couple up scenes here? Anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, I mean, again, nothing like particularly stuck out to me. This was sort of just a little bit of banter back and forth with the two sides, just setting everything up for the episode, right?
Yeah, so, and I don't mind it. I don't mind these first two couple scenes. I think they do a decent job getting kind of setting the pieces in place before we kind of knock them all down. But I kind of like some of the dialogue here. No complaints really at this stage.
No, for sure.
So back to Mos Espa, back to Garcia's sanctuary. Boba, Fennec, and Mando discuss strategy, which of course none of it works, which is really funny. They lay out this plan and then it instantly fails. So Fennec lays out the plan as they wait for Pike numbers to arrive. Mm-hmm. She says, we'll see them before they see us. So that's her plan. She's got strategically placed her muscle in places where they can keep an eye on the Pikes in case they try to strike any one particular location. Right? She mentions that the truce that Boba negotiated with the other families to stay neutral will help them control the territory, which, of course, I think we said right at the time, like, they're for sure going to betray him, right?
I thought maybe one would. I was definitely not expecting all three to betray. So that was a little bit of like, like when it happened, I was like, oh, okay. Like,
like worst case scenario.
Oh, yeah, worst case scenario. They're all just immediately turned on him. But it makes sense. Like, obviously, if Cad Bane went all the way out to Freetown to talk to, the marshal, he for sure went to those other three kind of families that are controlling Mos Espa. So
yeah, but the deal was always just stay neutral, right? Like that was the ask of the marshal too. Just stay out of it, and we'll pay you.
Yeah, that's fair. But
anyway, so I guess these guys were willing to get more in bed with the Pikes than they originally said. Okay, so the plan here is having the Gamorreans at the Klatooinian territory of the starport. Chrysanthemum in the Trandoshan territory, which I thought was a dumb idea. Like, you guys were going to put Chrysanthemum with the Trandoshans. That doesn't make any sense.
I know. It's like you knew he was going to be like kind of like, if anything, even if what
He
happens
could have gone to
didn't
just a
happen,
random fast fight, you know?
he could have, yeah, because he's just kind of a loose cannon. But you know,
Yeah.
logically, if you thought about it from there, like if you were there, it'd be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But from a theatrical point of the show, it's like, well, yeah, like you kind of want to see Chrysanthemum fighting Trandoshans because of the
Yeah, but we don't
history.
even get to see that, really.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But it gives it a little bit more of those stakes, and we can talk about it when it gets there, because that whole thing was one part that I was upset.
Right.
So
Okay, fair enough. I think I know what you're getting at. But
yeah,
to me, it's one of those errors. It's an unforced error. It's like, if you were, they had saw Chrysanthemum rip the arm off that Trandoshan recently. So
yeah, like
maybe Fennec was thinking, oh well, maybe he'll be intimidating to the
yeah, that's
Trandoshans.
true. Like they'll be a little bit kind of scared of him. Yeah, that's
Right.
fair. But
So
yeah,
maybe that's
I
the
get it.
move.
I get why, like, you know, from a viewer's standpoint, it's like, well, yeah, makes sense. But from a realistic standpoint, it's, well, yeah, why would you do that? So,
Well, from an in-universe standpoint, it's strange because it's like
hmm
it needlessly creates tension where that you didn't need
exactly,
it.
like way more tension for sure.
Right. So anyway, that's that's where he is, and then the mods are in the Aqualish territory, which is of course where we found them originally, the workers'
Right.
district. She says all our flanks are covered. No one is sneaking up on us, right?
hmm
And then of course someone immediately sneaks up on them, which is funny. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
so and I also like how this little sequence is done. She's telling, starts with her telling us how this is all going to work, and then it cuts to the mods kind of like cruising through town, checking in on the different the allies throughout the city. I
Yeah.
kind of liked
Yeah.
how that was shot. I didn't
Yeah.
mind that.
I did. I liked this. It gave me kind of I'm trying to think of what kind of
Ocean's 11.
movies. Yeah, like exactly, like those kind of Ocean's 11 vibes, or like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like this is the setup and this is the plan and
Yeah,
we
it's like
got it all,
that
and then
the
it,
heist movie
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
heist movie kind of thing, and then you just watch it all fall apart. So
right. And that sometimes is part of the fun, but I
it
just feel
is.
like, and at this point I'm like totally in. Like, okay, this is cool. I bristled a little bit at the Trandoshan Chrysanthemum thing, but I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on board with the kind of the
Yeah, with the
setup so
plan and
far,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And so Cad Bane arrives, and surprisingly, to negotiate with Fett, and all the Boba Fett, Cad Bane stuff I think is really good.
Oh, it's
So
really, really good.
he comes out and he's like, oh, if you're looking for a job, you're late. I guess got the idea that like, hey, you know, um, I guess they didn't know he was in town yet, so this is kind of the big reveal to Boba and the rest of the crew that Cad Bane is
Right.
in town.
Yeah.
And but I guess presumably based on the circumstance, he just assumed that he's working for the other side. And then you get this line here where he says, "I don't negotiate with gutless murderers." Boba Fett says this,
Yeah.
and then you get that line back from Bane. He's like, you know, if that's not the Quacta calling the Stifling slimy, which is of course
Yeah.
a
Made up.
calling the kettle
Yeah.
black
Ref Star,
analogy,
yeah, but Star
right?
Wars. I giggled at that. I liked it, and
No,
like immediate. I knew kind of knew something that was coming as soon as, you know.
right.
It just seemed like both of them have now called each other like basically like, oh, you're just a murderer.
You're
It's
a
like, yeah,
killer,
you
right?
are both killers and murderers.
Yeah, I like it. This is
But
where it's like, man, it's like from a dialogue standpoint, it's like there's some odd stuff like
okay,
sprinkled
fair
in. There's
enough.
some really good stuff in this
Yeah,
season, and there's some
yeah,
odd stuff. This line, "I don't negotiate with gutless murderers," doesn't make sense. Why would Boba say that to
yeah. To
Bane? Like,
Cad,
it's like,
yeah,
what is that really a dig? No, not really,
yeah.
right?
Not really. Not to
Because
him.
even exactly not to him, and especially because he's like, what are you talking about? I worked with you. I've seen. He mentions in
Yeah,
the
so are
last
you.
episode that he worked with the Empire. Like, what are you? I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. That really does. That's a weird one to me. It's just a little bit out of character. Bane tells Boba that Freetown won't be coming. You know, he says that he paid Marshal Vanth a visit, and quote, "You should have never left him without his armor," which is a really cool line. But
Mm-hmm.
also weird because Boba Fett doesn't know where that armor came from. It's not clear. I mean, we see him watch over Mando as he leaves with the armor at the end of season 2, episode 1 of The Mandalorian. So there's that
Right.
like shot of like, oh look, Boba's back, crazy, right? Everyone was shocked. But he doesn't get his armor back from Mando until late in the season.
I mean, fair, but like Cad Bane doesn't know that. He probably just knew that, the Marshal had the armor and now Boba Fett has it back, so he probably just assumes
Right.
Boba took it back.
I guess that's fair.
I guess, yeah. But
all right, fair enough.
yeah,
I'll leave that one be.
Yeah. I see what you're saying though.
It just these weird little elements. It's like, this is so. Why do we need to make this so needlessly confusing? All you'd have to do is have like these little brief conversations about how things played out, and kind of have everyone on the same page. But instead, we've got all these people on slightly different understandings of everything, and it's
because you got to have the bad guys talk about their bad guy plots. It's
right.
It's just needed.
Requirement.
It's required. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. You should have never left out your mother. I still like that. I still like it's a cool line. And this is where we're like, oh shit, he really did kill Cobb Vanth. And they definitely, like, couple times in this episode are like, yeah, he's dead. He's super dead.
There were a few times where I was like, oh, okay, like maybe he is dead.
I thought that was pretty bold if that was what they were doing. It's not. So, and then of course they both have backup. So Mando's there, Fennec's there. He calls them back shooters, which I think is funny. And so he's got his Pike gang with him. Boba continues to refuse to negotiate with Bane. He wants to deal with the head of the Pikes.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get under his skin, Bane reveals that the Pikes were the ones to kill the Tuskens. He wants to have a duel with him right then, right now. He knows he's faster. He knows he can take him out, right? And with the backup he has, he figures he can win that fight. Fair enough. And so I do like so you get the quick flashback, which I think is actually appropriate here, of him kind of like just boom, 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 couple quick shots of him thinking about the Tuskens. And then
absolutely.
This kind of cool shift in his stance where it looks like he's kind of like holding it kind of casually, his gun, and then he kind of comes back around and he's like, okay,
I like that because he's kind of got it on top and then he moves it to the barrel to, you know what I mean? It's, I like that.
And then Fennec talks him down. He talks, we're going to take him on. We're going to fight on our terms, not on theirs, right? Don't get pulled into this. It's their plan.
Which I very much appreciate, because she immediately is like, no, like he's trying to do this. He's trying to get to you. He's trying to play you and have you make a mistake. And I like that she's kind of his voice of reason sometimes.
She's
just kinda,
always the smart one.
Standing back there. And that's what he needs. And that's what he talked about before, about let's not work for people who do things rashly and don't think, right? So I very much like their whole relationship and how she can catch those things and be able to help him in that way so that he doesn't do something stupid.
Which he seems to do quite often.
Yeah. And again, I like that how he, she kind of talks him down and then he moves his hand back up. I just thought that was a very nice, like, kind of subtle disengage.
Totally. Yes. I love that too. And then, so the standoff is over. They each go their separate ways. And then, so David Pasquizzi's character, the Twi'lek captive, the major domo. I think he has a lot of great stuff in this episode, surprisingly more than I thought he would have. I think David Pasquizzi's hilarious in this season. Like, just every line reading is like pitch perfect, great.
He's very good, kind of like that typical kind of goofy Star Wars comic relief character, but not in a annoying Jar Jar
Not in
way.
a Jar Jar way. Yeah, exactly. So I think he's really good, but he doesn't get a name. The whole season, he just is David Pasquizzi as Mok Shaiz's major domo.
Oh, okay.
And if you look, there's other things too. There's like the Gamorrean guards don't get names. The Weequay proprietor, the bartender, played by W. Earl Brown, doesn't get a name.
He gets a name. Joe calls him. Yeah, Joe calls him something when she asks for the gun later on.
You're right,
I can't remember what his name is though. I think it starts with an L.
I think you're right. But for me, it's just odd because it's like this is a series that will name literally every background character. Like the ones that never even have a line. So to go through this entire season and not give David Pasquizzi's character a name, I feel it's like a little insulting to me. Like, really, you guys, you couldn't just at least give him a name off screen, like just like tell us what his name is in some other way.
It would be kind of funny if there is a later season, if we kind of learn, like, eventually someone asks him his name, he's like, oh, funny you ask. No one's asked my name.
Okay, you're right. That would be funny. But again, just a little insulting is my opinion.
Right.
But anyway, he has a little funny exchange here with Boba Fett. And he's like, it's excellent negotiating or whatever he says. Very good.
Yeah.
So they get word from the mods that something feels off, and this is right before the whole big battle kicks off. The locals are attacking them. It's a trap. They're picking up blasters from barrels. They're like, uh-oh. And then Boba calls Black Chrysanthemum, calls him Santo, which is my preferred nickname for him.
Yeah.
And we see that the Trandoshans have also set a trap, and they pull out what looks to be like Klingon backleth or whatever.
Oh,
It's
okay,
super funny. He's got
There's
like these
scythes and
they've got these like big long knives and stuff.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I thought it was strange. I was like, why don't they have guns? But whatever. I guess that's not their forte. Not that it's not their forte, but
they just
prefer
handheld
knives.
weapons. Yeah,
that's fair. A little more brutal.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that's weird here. So and we can just talk about it now.
Okay.
What it looks to be that he gets completely overwhelmed. He's literally there's a literal pile of Trandoshans on top of him. The music makes it seem very much like he was dead.
Yeah.
I think the show wants you to think he's dead.
Was upset. Like I was leaving it because I wasn't gonna get mad until I knew if that's how it was ending or not. It kind of gave me very similar vibes to, I can't remember which movie it is, but when the Rays accidentally force lightnings the ship that we think Chewie's
that's
in.
from episode 9. That movie
and you're
sucks.
like, what the fuck? And you're like kind of mad for a minute. It's like I had that same gut feeling. I was like, if they just killed Chrysanthemum that way in a pile of Trandoshans, I'm like, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm like, that's such an awful way to kill him off. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, they wouldn't do that. Like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, I don't think they would give him do the injustice.
I think he'd get a cooler death than that. And that was kind of how I felt about Cobb Vanth too.
Yeah, and that's kind of what was in the back of my head. But I'm like, I'm gonna wait to get mad until I know whether he's alive or not.
That being said, I feel like someone should have died, right? And I guess the only people who did were
a couple
the Gamorrean
of the mods
guards.
did. And the Gamorreans
but we didn't even know who those people were. Not the main two.
I know. That's what I mean. I'm like, you could have killed one of those main ones, and it would have been.
Well, no. The thing is, I think they know that no one cared. So if you try to make you try to make them care at the end. Oh, big emotional scene. They're dying, blood. Yeah. Oh God. Everyone's like, ugh, kill me. Like, get out of here. Like, I don't care. Right.
Yeah.
So I think they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place there. So it's you can get rid of the easy ones. I want to give the show credit. Be like, hey, do something bold. Okay, kill Black Chrysanthemum. Maybe do it in a better way.
I would have been
right. But I mean, like it's not like he's a character that has like a long history that needs to be honored. He's a fairly new character.
But
if he died,
so cool.
He's super cool. I agree. But if he had died, if you do it right, it could be done properly. It could make
because he's in the comics. That's why more people are attached to him, I think. So,
and that's fair. I
know not everyone reads them, but at the same time, it's like you can't take such a cool character and kill him.
No, I get that. But people do eventually have to die every once in a while. So
no, I know you can't have everyone live, but yeah. And I mean, yeah, the Gamorreans. That was one that kind of. Obviously, I didn't love seeing it. You're just like, oh man, that sucks. But like, it was
a pretty funny death, though.
It was a death that was like, okay, like I get it. Like they're not they're not super important. They're kind of like a nostalgic character,
right?
They're not necessarily something that we have a deep connection with right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was like kind of watching that scene. I'm like, why are they so close to that cliff? Stop backing up.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't.
And just their squeals. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's
I imagine that's what throwing a pig off a cliff would sound like.
Yeah. Piggies.
So they die, and with no backup coming, presumably from Freetown, Fennec's strategy is now to cut off the head and go after the Pike bosses.
Right.
Fair enough. Smart enough. Again, Moksha uses Major Domo in a pretty funny reveal. Tells them about his like.
This was
wait, no, this isn't the right moment. This is a different part where he's like, they're like, hey, where are they hiding out? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, actually, they're hiding in a very specific location in Mos
Here's exactly where they are, because they just cocked their gun, and he's like, oh yeah.
So that's fine. The other moment's coming, which I think is even better. Fennec hops on a speeder bike and takes off. I think the visual effects of that speeder bike are not great. It looks super weird as she like flies down the street.
Yeah.
Anyway, the speeder itself, the design of the speeder is pretty cool. So now we get into the kind of the full meat of the battle, which takes up about 25 minutes of the episode. And we cut back to the mods who are pinned down and trapped in a dead end. Fennec comes to the rescue and does a cool flip before speeding off again.
Yeah.
I thought that flip was really weird too. She's not a Jedi. It doesn't make it's like
She's
whatever.
just good at
She's
stuff.
just good. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that weird moment
Sneaky.
where I don't know if you thought it was odd, but the show comes to a complete halt for a moment so that this mod, what's her name, Drash,
Yeah.
can say thank you to
It's
Fennec.
so weird. She's like, "Oh, manners. I like that." It was
Yeah.
a kind of a cute interaction, very unnecessary, but kind of cute. Could have done it
but
later. I don't know.
it doesn't. It completely breaks the pacing.
Yeah.
Like what is going? This is what I mean. It's just odd decisions. Like that is not good filmmaking. Even if you like that moment, it can happen later.
It can happen
right?
later. I totally
It
agree.
can
with,
happen
like,
at the end of the episode, right? But they don't. Anyway, they don't use that opportunity. They use it for something else, which is also lame. Cut back to the sanctuary. The Pikes have arrived in numbers now. Boba and Mando have a conversation. This, for me, is like the coolest part of the episode, as they decide what to do.
Right.
Boba doesn't think any of the allies have survived. And for the show, it makes it seem, other than the fact that they just reveal that the mods have survived, which they could have flipped these scenes and would have worked way better. So, again, odd decision making. And he doesn't think that anyone has survived. He's like, all three Gotras have turned on us. And then there's this other reference to The Godfather where Mando says it was the smart move.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I like this interaction.
Yeah, and he's like, it was, right? And it's like, he's like, and I thought it was very funny. Like in the Screen Crush recap, there's a moment where he pauses here and he's basically like, if you knew that was the smart move, why didn't you do anything about it?
Yeah, I know. Like, just full of hope, thrown right into your face.
He's just like, well, everything's gonna work out for me. That's kind of like, that was his strategy, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like not a defeatist attitude, but they're just stating the obvious. Like Mando's like, yeah, I would have done that too, and Boba's like, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And Mando decides to stay in spite of like all the odds against them, and Boba's urging him to leave, and he says it's against his creed, which he was just kicked out of. So, but and he's like, you really buy into that stuff? And he's like, I do. And Boba's like, that's good. So it's like there's a lot of like really good like bro stuff going on.
I very much like this whole interaction. Like, Mando just saying like, if we're going down together. I'm not leaving. Even though Boba's giving him the out, being like, yeah, man, just you can go. It's fine.
Right.
It was just I really like this moment between them. Just like a Boba offering
brotherly.
him the chance to leave. Yeah, Mando being like, no, man, like I'm staying. This is what we do, and it was just very sweet. It was like a good like. I feel like this is what Mandalorian kind of culture should be. Like offering to leave, but wanting to stay.
Right. And this obviously comes back to the title of the episode, right? Right. And it's about honor, right? It's not honorable to leave your ally in their moment of need.
Of course, right? Yeah.
But you also argue it's not honorable to die for no reason.
Well, yeah, and it's not honorable to like make someone die if you think you're in a fight that you're not going to win, too, right? It's but yeah, it can go both ways, but there's like that sense of kind of understanding and just the outcome, that trying to do what's best for each other. Like they care about each other more than they care about their own like selves.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Mando doesn't know if he's ever going to see Grogu again. I think he's at a point he's been he's been kicked out of his little sect of really crazy Mandalorians. So he's kind of like he's in between. He doesn't really have anywhere to go. This is the only place that he for him right now. And he's like, okay, well, if these guys, this is how it's gonna end. This is how it's gonna end. Like he's got nothing to lose at this point. So I appreciate that too. So Mando thinks they've got two options: wait until they get into position and launch a siege on their terms. So basically, what he's saying here is, let them get set up, and then we can try to deal with their, once they're entrenched, we can try to deal with them. Obviously a bad call.
Yeah.
Or we rush out there, catch them unaware, and escape to your ship at the palace. Which is also a bad plan, to be fair. They're two bad plans. And I also appreciate he's like, yeah, we can get to the ship and we can get out of here. That's actually like that's a smart move. And but Boba's like, no, I refuse to leave. I refuse to leave and abandon the people. And this we get. I guess we'll both die in the name of honor. Is that okay? Fair enough. They're both stubborn. Is essentially the outcome there.
Typical.
And this is, of course, obviously a reference. Obviously, all this stuff is a reference to Western filmmaking.
Of course.
This is very much classic. You know, that go out guns a blazing. You know, go down fighting. And they're about to rush out there to their deaths when Mok Shaiz's major domo, who doesn't have a name, we'll call him Tailhead for now.
Yeah, Tailhead. He seems to like it.
Yeah, interrupts, and again, super funny. He talks about his past. He was educated in Coruscant. He's like, but don't worry, I don't think that makes me better than anyone. And he's like, and he's specialized in civic council negotiations. He offers to negotiate on the behalf of Boba Fett. And he's like, I'm fairly certain we'd be granted passage off-world with, at worst, some theatrical, symbolic, groveling gestures and an exchange of funds.
Yeah, and an exchange of funds.
It's like, we'll pay them, they'll let us leave. We say, sorry, and we're fine, right? And it's like, that's a very like political move. It totally fits everything here. But I just love how he's like telling this long, flowery story about how.
And I feel like you can tell that like Boba and Mando just like don't care. Like they're just waiting for him to stop talking and be like, "Hey, what's your plan? Like, get to it."
It's like, can you just let us die already?
Yeah, you're wasting time.
Yeah,
they're literally setting up right now.
And then I think it's funny. Surprisingly, Boba agrees to these terms. He's like, "Okay, let me write down." And by the way, I've never seen anyone, I don't think, write in handwriting before.
Yeah, on a holopad. The second he took that, I was like, "He's gonna write something stupid on there. It's just gonna be like, fuck you." I was like, I just knew.
Yeah, he's like, here, I'll write down what I'm willing to pay and what my terms are. And he's like, oh, it'll protect you from bruising your egos. You know.
He's like, I'll do all the groveling for you. Don't worry.
Yeah. Smart though, because I don't think neither of them are very good at groveling.
Absolutely not.
So he goes back outside and he's bearing their terms of surrender. Right? They call him a tailhead, and then you get this. Probably the best line of the whole episode, which is enchanting sobriquet, and one in which I never tire. And of course, I've never heard the word sobriquet before.
Me either. So wait, is it a real word or is it a Star Wars word?
Yeah, a person's nickname. She was a vast and hotly person who answered to the sobriquet Duchess.
Oh,
the use that's there.
What a funny word to use to like crime.
I know.
Like
I fucking. It's like because they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah,
it's.
I
so
thought
funny.
he was honestly in this scene. I thought he was gonna get shot the second he walked out. I was like,
so
he's
me
gonna
too.
Get shot.
I also thought he'd be shot after he said enchanting sobriquet. The use of enchanting, but it's like I think it's a amazing rebuttal to the classic like derogatory slang that is thrown at him. Right? He's like, oh, tailhead. So I've never heard that before. You know?
Exactly.
But this is just so much more articulate.
It's like he's kind of talking down to them, but
100% he is.
Yeah,
he's talking. That's the
thing.
That's his character. He's constantly talking down to everyone around him all the time,
but making it seem like he's super friendly and being like, oh.
But it's just thinly veiled. It's so thinly veiled. This like sense of speaking of haughtiness. He's like this. He's totally condescending all the time.
Yes,
and it's, I think it's again, David Pasquesi, great name. Also Pasquesi,
great
name. So I just think he's killing it here. So I'm glad he doesn't die.
He does such a good job with this character. Yeah, this is one of the characters I'm like, I would like to see more of him. Like, I really enjoy him. Yeah.
I hope he's Boba Fett's. I guess he's out of a job with the.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think we'll see him again. Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the mayor's dead, so so anyway, he tries to negotiate and like ingratiate himself by talking about the obsidian cliffs of Obadiah. Of course, Obadiah is, of course, the homeworld of the Pikes. We've seen Obadiah in the Clone Wars a couple times. It's in the last season, actually, the final season, we see it there with those sisters.
The
Martez sisters.
Martez sisters,
our favorites.
Yes.
And anyway, see, that doesn't work. So he reads the message and he's like going for it, and then he stumbles. Right, the part where he's about to reveal. Yeah, where he goes to reveal what his actual his like what he's offering is, and he's like, you know what? Actually, what do we talk about? What you want?
Yeah.
And he's like, read it. He's like, okay. And he's like, anyway, as I was saying, he's like, ahem, nothing.
Yeah.
He's like,
he
and
offers
then
you
nothing, which is also again the another reference to The Godfather. That's another Godfather reference, and he goes reads the whole. He could have stopped after nothing, but he reads the whole like whatever Boba Fett wrote. He's like, the sands of Tatooine will flower with new blossoms, and they've been
nourished
fertilized
by your bodies,
by your dead bodies. And it's like, wow, what an amazing little thing to write. He's like, don't shoot the messenger. It's just like, he's like his words,
not mine. You just hear them like kind of like cock the guns a little bit.
Right? Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's dead.
And well, he's about to be shot, and then Boba and Mando fly out of nowhere, surprise him with their jetpacks. This is really cool, obviously.
It was great, yeah.
Gotta say, though, this is another one of those like classic Star Wars breaking war crime thing, right? Like this classic, like, oh no, we're gonna surrender. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, negotiations.
Yeah, we're negotiating, but also we're gonna shoot you in the back. So it's a little. I mean, I guess they're crime lords. We'll call this aggressive negotiations.
Yeah, because at the same time, it's like the Pikes have their guns drawn already. Like they came to fight. They didn't come to negotiate at this point.
Right.
They came to fight. So it's like, yeah, this is more of a distraction.
It's still a little slimy.
Because
anyway.
Anakin pulls that in Clone Wars at one point too.
Yeah. And they're like,
and you're like, that's a war crime.
That is not allowed. Yeah. It's like,
even though it's just droids. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So they fly out. We got lots of cool action: knee rockets, whistling birds, wrist launchers, really everything cool.
Oh yeah, I really like this sequence. I love seeing Mandalorians fight, especially when we can see it live action, because we've seen some pretty cool like Mandalorian fights, obviously, like in the Clone Wars and animated, but we don't get a lot of live action Mandos. So I just love watching them work together, but also getting shot at different points in time and having to take care of each other.
They're lucky they never got lucky. Boba never got shot in the leg. He doesn't have any armor on his leg. Yeah, so I think that's lucky that doesn't.
Yeah, those Pikes got stormtrooper aim where they're hitting the right places, but the wrong places to hit them.
I also love how they'll just like pop out of cover and be like just blasting away and just like make themselves easy targets. And they're just I mean, it's cool gunfight stuff, right? Again, I just feel like as cool as this is, it could be done better. It just could have more weight to it. This feels really light.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
That's
like
unfortunate.
I think honestly, like as you said earlier, if this had been at night, it would have looked a lot cooler, or even like sunset, or you know what I mean? Something that had a little bit more depth to it would have looked pretty
Just
cool.
give it some more atmosphere.
Yeah,
right?
We could have
like,
had
where's
twin
the cool
suns setting and some really cool light and red light.
Instead, it's just middle of the day.
Yeah.
It's just middle of the day, high noon, I guess. I don't know. To me, it's just there's a lot of missed opportunities here, and I think this is one of them. I mean, they're still evolving. A lot of this stuff is still being worked through. What you can do with the what the hell is it called? Not the void, the
volume.
The volume. I always want to call it the void for some
reason. You do. I get it though.
Yeah. So what they can do with the volume is still kind of being tweaked. There's like they have bigger ones and smaller ones, and I get that. I do, but you can do better than this. Is my honest opinion. Yeah,
there could have just been a little bit, more depth or a little bit more interesting lighting for sure.
And so anyway, they survive, but they're saved by the people of Freetown. They show up on a speeder. The bartender's there on the turret, and the odds are even a little bit more evened out. And Mando apologizes about the marshal, and they're like, they gunned him down in cold blood.
Yeah.
And
see, there I was like, maybe he is dead.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, for sure he's dead, right? And the mods arrive as well. There's a cool flip off the speeders. He gets like shot off of it, and he kind of does like this cool somersault roll thing.
Yeah.
But then I thought this is so odd. Another one of those weird moments. There's like weird exchange between the mods and the free people, the people of Freetown. Where they're like, it's like country folk versus city folk. Like, no one cares about this.
I know.
What are you talking about? I don't
And I
know.
get it, like Boba Fett kind of breaking it up, being
Right.
like, no, like we're on the same
Save
team
it for
here.
the
Like,
Pikes.
save it
Yeah.
for the Pikes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird, these odd choices to me. And okay, so I'll
Yeah.
just speaking about kind of like you mentioned the stormtrooper aim.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some people complain about like, man, they can't hit anything. It's just the heroes standing in one spot, not getting hit and shooting everybody. You
Right.
know, and that does get old. I think I personally, I would like a little bit more dynamic filmmaking.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's
And
kind of like the same issue we had with like the whole Fennec when they were getting Boba's ship, and it's like,
right,
man, like you could have had her doing way more cool stuff instead of just like standing
exactly.
behind one pillar and
Yeah, one
shooting.
barrel.
So, yeah, and the Pikes are always just like out in the open. You're like, okay, well,
Right. And so
yeah,
like and so you could argue like, hey, this is paying homage to A New Hope, right? And that's a lot of A New Hope is the heroes chatting and bickering with each other as their
right,
blaster fire. And like I get that, but that was 1977. Okay? Movie making has evolved a lot in 40 years.
yeah,
And I would personally wouldn't mind a little bit more exciting action. And I think The Mandalorian brings a lot of that. This show did not really bring a lot of exciting action, except for in episode 2 with the train scene. That was cool.
right,
Right?
yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
like you could add a little bit more flair to it, a little bit more. Yeah,
Zhuzh it up
There's
a
a little
bit.
more
That's all,
zhuzh.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
And okay, so where were we? Oh, so the Pikes arrive. They have this little exchange. Sorry, not the Pikes arrive. The city folk or the city folk, country folk argument happening. Freetown people, right? Chrysanthemum also arrives. He kind of like runs around the corner.
Oh,
He's
man,
getting shot
I
up.
was pumped.
I mean, I bet you were because you thought he was dead.
Oh,
And I was
yeah,
like, I was happy to see.
Still a little worried during this, but I was like, oh no, I think he should be fine now. But
Yeah, well, I was happy to see he was alive.
So tough.
He gets shot so many
He
times.
does. I think, granted, some of those do, I think, kind of hit his like armor plates because he's got like those
I
shoulder
guess.
plates. And,
Yeah, they happen to hit that one like
yeah,
sliver of metal he has over his shoulder.
Yeah, but he's like pretty messed up. If you look, like he's bleeding from his head. He's got like a big slash on the back of his shin, which is why he's like limping. But I just love how he's just still when he blasts that guy like 2 times in the air, like throws him and shoots him, and then picks up another pike and throws him into another one. Like I love seeing a really strong character, like physically strong. Like I just feel like a lot of times we see a lot of
like
backflipping and stealth, but he's just like a tank, like a true to the name tank, just tossing people to the side and just barreling through. I like it.
And obviously a character that you like too. There's people were complaining about continuity errors with Chrysanthemum. I don't know if it's continuity errors, but he does go from limping to running to limping quite often in this episode.
Yeah, he's kind of
which is a little weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is what it is, but
yeah,
Wookiees are tough.
They are tough. Yeah.
So he gets back, and I also like this little brief exchange with Boba Fett. He's like, "Welcome back, Santo. I have to confess, I thought you were done."
Yeah. Yeah.
When this is over, I owe you a nice long soak in the back to tank.
In the back to tank.
Yeah.
He's
and I was like, no
full
shit.
Of hair.
Yeah. Well, I was like, there's no way he fits in that.
Yeah. I was also thinking too, like just the way that my brain works sometimes when they run out to like pick him up and carry him back in. I'm like, he must be so heavy. Like he's got to be like.
Oh, I know.
If he were in real life, like he's got to be what 400
It'd be like trying to carry a bear. It'd be like trying to carry. It does. There's later
he's
on
putting his weight on you.
He's like being carried off by the 2 mods, and I'm like,
the
there's
2
like
mods.
It looks so stupid because they're shorter than him.
Yeah, he's huge,
and he's like crouching down and pretending to limp, and
trying to put his weight on them.
It just looks so dumb.
Yeah,
and like I understand what they're going for here, but there's no way. Even if a bear was like helping you help it would be like so heavy to carry. Yeah, like
they're mods. They got mod parts. They're strong.
That's true. That's a good point. We didn't consider that. You're right. So the Pikes Retreat. People are celebrating, but they can't cheer for long as Mando recognizes that there's a couple, 2 droids coming their way. 4-legged Scorpionic droids.
Yeah, they're cool.
This is the coolest droid design we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah. Like what and where did these... There's so many questions. I have so many questions. yeah, we can get to it. There's something I specifically want to ask you. Yeah, when we get to it about them. But yeah, they look like scorpions, but they have like the droideka shields that
Yeah,
come around them. Very
yeah.
cool, but they're massive. I don't think I've
Mm-hmm.
ever seen
A
droids
droid
with
that big?
shields this
Well, we've
massive.
seen. Yeah, I don't think they're this big. We've seen big droids like
We've
those,
seen
those like
crawlers and
those
whatever,
big
and
ones with the spidered ones that have the arms that turn around and shoot. Those like
yeah,
octo droids or whatever. Those
right,
ones are
right.
weird and those are pretty
But
big. But
it's like these are huge, and where do they
these are
come from?
super big. You know what? Honestly, these are cool new designs. I would have still preferred to see one of those cool octo droids pop out because that would have been a fun reference to the Clone Wars. This is also technically a reference to the Clone Wars. These were original designs for Clone Wars era battle droids.
Okay, I was gonna say
that
they
were
must
unused.
be
Yeah,
kind of unused, but they're very cool. It's
yeah, and
I
obviously
like
having
them
the
a lot.
shield generators is like the cool twist. You're like they're cool on their own, but then the
Yes,
shield generators come up. You're like, oh shit, that's
yeah.
cool.
You always know too, because they're like it's you always hear about how hard they are to fight, right? So
The droidekas,
droid, yeah, they're super. I mean, just in Star Wars, that's always the problem is they have shields. So
right,
it's like regular people can't really fight them. That's why the Jedi like have to teach people. There's like a
right.
whole Clone Wars episode
That's
where
right. We
they
have to slowly
yeah
roll the
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 bombs so they
grenades.
can make it under the shields to, and
Yeah.
why they have to use like the what do they call those little electro bombs that
Yes.
kind of zap
Yes.
them. But I
Yep.
mean, now there's no more Clone Wars, so
They don't
there's
have
not
as
as
many
much.
electro
Yeah, like
grenades.
I mean, they probably
Yeah.
have some, but you're not prepared with that kind of stuff,
But you weren't
right? So
expecting these massive
no,
droids
I
at
wasn't
all.
like, yeah, exactly. When I saw
Right.
them come, I was like,
I guess
oh, those are
how did they get
cool.
on planet without anyone noticing is the question. But maybe
Maybe
they're
they
snuck
fold
on
up
at
really
night or
small, like a
maybe.
transformer.
That would be cool. And they're like super violent too. Like they're
Yeah.
they're not pushovers. I mean, the droidekas aren't either, but like
No, they're not.
he's kind of like a mean, angry giant version of the droidekas that move a little
Yeah.
slower.
And I just
You know?
thought they were kind of cool because they seemed a little bit more like sentient than some of the Droidekas are.
Mm-hmm.
Like they get angry. They have like almost like really pointy, like stabby, slashy, like feet
Yeah,
that they can use and guns.
the
So
slashy, stabby feet were a big surprise. I wasn't
it was
expecting them to be used.
yeah,
as
it was
weapons.
very cool. It was very like I was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Like it's yeah, and even before I knew what they were called, because I didn't the first time I watched I didn't catch what they were called until I
Mm-hmm.
watched with subtitles the second time. And I was like I thought I'm like they look like scorpions. I'm like they're probably called like Scorpio droids or something.
Right. I think it's funny that like Pelly seems to know exactly what they're
Yeah.
called, which I think is weird, but whatever.
She's been
Someone had
around
to
a
say it.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Boba tries to take him out with his rocket launcher, but it has no effect, which I think is good because he can't just use
Okay.
it for anything. Right.
Here's where I want to ask you something.
Right.
So he tries to shoot it with the rocket, and then we get all the smoke, and it gets really quiet.
Right.
Did you notice the music that plays after this?
No.
Because to
I
me,
didn't.
it sounded like some of the music that we hear, and it's probably not. I did record it on my phone. I can maybe play it. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but it kind of sounds like the music that we hear when Kylo's around and like the First Order is
Try
around,
it.
like that. Like
Play it with your phone. Put it up against the
okay.
microphone. I want to hear it.
All right. And I'm like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just very similar, but because you're better
Right.
with this. So forgive me if this sounds like crap, but hold on. I need to take my headphones off for a hot minute.
Okay.
Can you hear it?
Yep. Oh, it is similar. It has a similar. It is.
It'll play again. Like that kind of trumpety sound?
Yeah,
is
it
kinda
does.
similar,
It is
isn't
a little similar. I would
That
agree that is similar. Yeah, it's got
Can't do
that
it.
First Order almost theme.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure if that was specific or what it was just kind of similar, but it's not. And I know this First Order isn't around. Nobody come at me. I know
No,
it
they
doesn't
are. The
exist
First
yet.
Order is around. They are. They're
Are
just
they?
not. Yes, they are. They're just not widely known. They're kind of in the. They're in the unknown regions at this time.
Okay. So
They're-
maybe there's
they're
a
around.
little bit of a reason. Maybe they bought these guys from the First Order because they're
Maybe.
building their big evil fleet of planet destroyers right now.
Right. Yeah.
I guess that's just the Empire.
That's
or
a
the
yeah.
Emperor.
That's different. That's the Emperor. The
Emperor,
First Order
sorry.
is doing their own. They're.
Yeah.
So this is pre the Battle of Jakku or after the Battle of Jakku. I guess there's Imperial remnants around at this time.
Yeah,
right? Obviously.
there's still.
But
so I'm
they're-
not too sure, but
But my understanding is the First Order, General Hux, the father of the General Hux that we know
right.
from the sequels, he left with a contingent of Star Destroyers, disappears into the unknown regions and doesn't come back until. And then when he does, the First Order is around, right?
Oh, okay. Then they're
General
already
Hux
around.
has to
Okay.
come up, has to grow up to the like teenage age he is in the prequels.
Right.
That's when they come back, kind
Well,
of.
yeah, and so
a
does
little bit
Kylo,
before that.
because Kylo is like,
Yeah.
what, maybe 3 or 4 right now in
Yeah, he's
this
an
timeline.
infant. Yeah,
He's a child, yeah. So, but
exactly.
yeah, I wasn't too sure if that was significant at all or a little Easter egg, or if
I
anybody
didn't notice
else.
that, but I think the idea is I think there is just like spooky, scary
Yeah,
music, like
I wasn't too sure if it was
kind of like
anything specific
Grogu's
or not.
theme is one note different than
Yeah.
the Force theme,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So I don't.
So maybe it was just playing that up a little bit. Like the
Yeah,
composer's like, oh, okay, we can use kind of similar, but yeah, it could have been nothing. So
I would have preferred them if you're going to use a musical cue there. Use a musical cue from the Clone Wars, right?
yeah,
use
that would have been cool.
Use the theme of the Separatists or whatever, and
Yeah,
the droid
yeah.
army, which I always think is super cool. One of the best pieces of music that John Williams has done. Okay, so he used the rocket launcher, no effect. Boba and Mando decide to stay and distract the droids as the rest of the team retreat. There's a cool jetpack slide move that Boba does. That I thought that was like, okay, that's kinetic and fun. Mando tries to use the Darksaber, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so, like, could they not just like go into the shields and then like with their sword and then just cut his legs off? Or he
looks
can't
like
get through the shields at all.
Yeah, it looks like you can't really get through them when they're
Unless
like
it's
full power. Because you see
right.
later, like Chrysanthemum kind of tries with his electro, like because he's got his
Right.
knuckles, and he looks like he can kind of almost get through, and then it just kind of kicks him away, right?
Right.
So
They have
it
to
just
turn red
seems-
first, and then he can go through.
Yeah, it looks like they need to
Yeah.
be a little bit more disabled before you can get right in there.
And then there's this line that I think is interesting. The energy weapons can't get through, and the kinetic weapons have too much velocity. So
Right.
there's this like understanding, I guess, that they just have regular ass guns in the Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess they like, to me, I don't think this line is necessary because I think we understand inherently what's going on here. But it is weird for them to just admit that they're like, oh yeah, like because they had. Mando's old rifle was also like a slug thrower, I think they called it. Right?
Yeah,
the thing that would
slug shoot or
disintegrate
something like
people.
that, yeah. Right.
And
right, yes.
like so in this, they've got these like long rifles. But I always thought that those are just like different versions of unless he's talking about the missile. Right, and then he might be
feel
talking
like maybe
about
he's
the
talking
missile.
about like the missiles and because he's got they got the shooters and the knee
Right, yeah,
knee shots and
yeah.
the whistling birds, that kind of stuff.
Right,
but
maybe that's what he's talking about. Okay,
yeah, like they
I
just
take
made
it back
move
then.
too fast. So
Right.
yeah.
Boba flies off to get his own reinforcements. He's like, "Listen, I'll be back." He's like, "What?" And then he just flies away.
Yeah.
Mando is tasked with protecting the others. Speaking of the others, they're running away from the other droid. Santo
Right.
tries to get through the shields with his gauntlets, but is kicked away. And I was going to say, he's also running around here, not limping at all, but then he needs to be carried by the mods right after.
Maybe he got a quick little back to shot or a stim.
Yeah, maybe he got a stim.
Yeah.
I'd like you've got answers to all my nitpicks. They're mods. They can just have extra strength. It's like, okay, yeah, that's fair. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then Peli arrives on a taxi.
The rickshaw thing was incredible. Yeah. I cracked up. One of my favorite things about Star Wars is in the middle of a very serious kind of combat, you can just have these
wacky happens.
Something kind of goofy, and it doesn't ruin it. It's kind of, you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny. It's
right. Well, and this one works because it gets against a droid, because I don't think it would work if it was against like a sentient person. Right.
Yeah. When I first saw her, because I kind of went like up and down with this scene, right? I was like, there's no way she just brought that baby to this. But she doesn't know, right? And I was like, oh, okay, he's not with her. And
well, because she's like, hey, Mando, look what I brought.
Yeah.
He's like, we're kind of busy.
What? And then when you find out he actually is there, I was like, son of a bitch, he's actually there.
Yeah, that's funny. Under a blanket.
Yeah, which is fair. Like, she didn't know what was going on, but...
Right. Yeah. So she arrives in the taxi, and Mando grabs a ride, and he's like, can this thing go faster? And she's like, go faster, you bucket of bolts, and throws like a wrench at its head. Holy crap, that cracked me up. I thought that was funny. So the rest of the team decide to hold position at a market-like building with like a low wall. It's kind of it feels like a random spot. Drash, the female mod, has a plan. It's not really clear what the plan is, though. Like, it's like, okay, we're going to climb up onto the roof, and then what?
Snipe some people.
Yeah. She needs to trade guns with the bartender, and then the girl, Jo, from Freetown, goes with her, so they're friends now.
Right.
And and back with Peli, Mando and Grogu are reunited. Very cute. We get this like force jump into his arms. I feel like here's what I feel. He just gave up Grogu at the end of Mandalorian. Very emotional, right? How sad.
Yeah.
And then the way that they and then we have this really cool episode 2 episodes ago where he almost sees him, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or was it last episode? And he almost sees him, or he does, but he can't like talk to him. And it's like, okay, he's like he can admit that, you know, he's in the right place, he's doing the right things, and he's like okay with that, right?
Yeah.
That works. And then the next episode, their reintroduction happens in the middle of a battle.
Yeah.
I think that's lame. I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like there's lots of things I liked about having Grogu here and everything. But yeah, you're right. It feels like you're like, oh man, I kind of wish they could have got like a little bit of a different reunion or a little bit. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
feel
like
what you're
nothing's
saying.
explained. Like,
Yeah. He's not like, what are you doing here? Like what's going on? Yeah.
right? Like, did we even talk about how he arrived? I don't think we even talked about how he arrived at to see Pelly the first time.
Oh no,
like,
we didn't.
with
but
R2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's this moment where the X-wing flies down, and she's like, "Oh, officer, I was just going to apply for my New Republic certification. What are the
Yeah.
odds?" Which I did think was
loved
fun.
She's like shooing all the droids away. She's like, hide that. Get out of here. Don't touch
Yeah,
that. Like
yeah,
just giving
yeah,
them all these
yeah,
little orders
yeah,
because she
yeah,
always has
yeah.
a bunch of illegal shit everywhere. So funny.
Yeah, and I also thought it was funny like how the pit droids are like guiding it in, but it's like if you were in the cockpit, you couldn't see shit. Like you wouldn't be able to see any of that.
No.
But
so
anyway,
funny.
so it lands, and she's like, I actually kind of thought at first that it was gonna be, oh, it's like it's the X-wing of the dude that we know, that captain.
Well,
What's his name?
yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. Because I was like, is that Luke? At first, I was like, nah, it's not Luke. And I was like, is it? And then when she says, oh, officer, I was like, oh, okay, it's just like
Right.
whatever,
It's
one of
dude.
the officers. Yeah.
Right.
But then it's Grogu.
Turns out it's Grogu. He's like, "Brap,"
Yeah,
and
so cute. He's
yeah.
all by himself. And
Yeah,
well,
he's
as soon as I saw R2, I was like, oh, it's Grogu.
Right. And like, so remember what we talked about? Was like, what are the odds? Like, what are predictions for next week? And I was like,
Yeah,
what
we thought
if
Luke shows
Luke
up?
comes to Tatooine? How
Yeah.
cool would that be? And I had kind of like thought about all the different possibilities throughout the week, and I kind of, one of our patrons asked on our Slack. You can join the Slack if you are in the Patreon group. And he's like, "What do you think about the like predictions for the finale?" And I was like, "I think I kind of
Right.
talked myself into believing that Luke was going to come
Yeah.
because that would be really cool." Right?
I had doubts because I was like, I just couldn't see him caring. Not that he didn't care, but I could just see him very much being like, that's not my place.
I got bigger things to do. I got a
Yeah.
whole school to run with no students.
Right.
So,
Right. So it makes very much sense why he wouldn't be there, but yeah.
I suppose, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I suppose, but and then I saw the X-Wing. I was like, "Oh, cool! We're gonna have Luke here." That's like
Mhm.
finally the thing that I
It's
was
the
like,
tease.
it's gonna pay off. And then now it's just Grogu, and at
Yeah.
least R2's there. And I
Yeah.
love how Pelly's like, "What's the rush? Slow down! You just got here."
Mhm. And she's like,
You know?
"Oh, did they taught you how to fly this already?" And then the little droid in the back is like,
R4.
"Merp, merp, merp, merp."
R4, who of course R2 would know from when
Right,
they
from
were
being sold together.
being sold together, and he had the bad motivator, which is
He had
what
the bad
got him at the
motivator.
job in the first place.
Yeah.
In
She's
the
like, obviously, I know the droid
Yeah.
flew the plane.
Yeah. Ugh,
Just-
I'm not stupid,
yeah.
right? And so they're in that. There's that short story collection called "From a Certain Point of View."
Right, I have
Um,
those. I haven't read them yet.
I've read the first one, audiobook, the first one. Some really good
Okay.
audiobook reading in the first one. I haven't read the second one. But basically, the premise of those books is that it's a short story of all the background characters from every character
Okay,
in
very
the background
cute.
of the movies. So R4 gets his own little story where he talks to R2. They're talking in like binary or whatever to each
Right.
other. And R2 is explaining the mission he's on and how important it is and all this kind of stuff. So he convinces R4 to blow his motivator
Aww.
so he can get get to Luke and like have this whole thing.
That's very
and
sweet. I
So
like
it
that.
is a very sweet little tale, and I believe that my understanding is that even though there's this non-canon version of this R4 comic where he had his own little comic book,
Right.
similar story where he kind of like tries to help the rebellion by letting R2 get the job.
Yeah.
So they have a little reunion, and that's cute, but it doesn't last very long. Grogu gets to eat some worms.
Yeah.
Oh, I also love how Pelly's like, Grogu? That's a dumb name. I'm not calling him that.
I loved that too. She's like, "Oh, sorry, kid. Like, oh,
Yeah,
sorry about that."
Yeah, that
I'm not gonna call you
sucks.
that.
Yeah.
I hope she comes up with like a really cute nickname for him.
Well, she calls him Bright Eyes,
Oh yes, Bright Eyes. Yeah, yeah.
which is I think a reference to the Planet of the Apes. So
Oh, okay.
that's a weird one.
Huh. Yeah, that's weird.
So anyway, back to the main story
Yes.
here. They're gonna hold position at this thing. They're gonna go up on the roof. We get the reunion with Mando and Grogu. And he's like, "Stay hidden until the fight's over." And he's like, "Oh wait, you got the shirt." He's like, "Oh, you got
Yeah.
it." I thought
It
that was
so
that was
sweet.
nice too.
It made me like tear up as soon as I saw them. Like when he does his little like force leap into his arms, and then when he's like, "Oh, you got your shirt," it's so sweet.
Yeah, it is sweet, and that is a nice touching moment. But again, all that could have been done in a more like less rushed way.
Right. Yeah.
So Mando asks Peli what Grogu's even doing here, and her answer is the Force works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
What a weird exchange that is. They get thrown off the taxi. Mando does a cool rocket pack save to catch Grogu.
Like a football.
Yeah, totally. It looks like they too are going to get overrun. Like 4 or 5 times it looks like the good guys are going to lose in this episode.
Oh yeah.
It looks like they're getting overrun by the droid, and then Boba arrives riding the Rancor.
So cool.
Very cool. And I like how it comes. It's like kind of teased at first. It's kind of Godzilla-esque. You kind of see the back, and then he comes up over the building, and we get this really cool shot of Boba riding it.
I don't know why I didn't think he went to get the Rancor. I thought he went to get his ship.
Well, that would have made more sense. Honestly, would have made more sense. You could have taken out those things, no problem.
Yeah, he's going to get a ship, and then that makes sense. And then when you hear the like thump, boom, boom, I was like, holy shit, he's riding a Rancor. I was so excited.
Why was it only that one scene with him and
I mean,
and what's his name chatting? I want to ride this, and then the next scene with the Grogu or with the Rancor is that he's riding it. There's nothing in between.
In the downtime when we had those Mando episodes,
I guess.
When we had the first,
I guess so.
Opening.
Honestly,
of Mando.
Why didn't we spend time with him learning how to befriend the Rancor, learn how to ride it?
Yeah,
get some, gain some respect for the character of Boba Fett, who'd kind of been slacking off most of the season.
Right? Yeah. Instead,
we spent half the season with the Mandalorian. I know.
I don't
so get me started on that again. It's crazy to me. So he's riding the Rancor, very Godzilla-esque, very cool. Boba and the Rancor move around the rooftops, getting close, and then they weaken the shield. Mando approaches from behind, enters the shield bubble with the Darksaber, flies up to the head, and then for some reason waits around for the thing to shoot the Rancor. I don't understand that.
Why you wouldn't stab it immediately?
This is one of those things. It's like, you can't do this stuff. People are going to notice.
Yeah.
He literally flies up there, has the opportunity to either cut its legs off, cut it in half, literally whatever he wants to do, but instead waits around for the Rancor to get shot in the chest.
Yeah.
Before I don't even know what he does, because he gets thrown off and then almost killed by the thing.
Yeah.
So what was even the point of that? That is bad action directing.
I think, doesn't he cut one of its guns off, I think?
Yeah, I think
he goes up there, and I think the first things he does is cut one gun off, and then he kind of gets thrown off.
Stab it in the head. Cut the head off.
Yeah, stab it in its eye. But I guess the little later we do see that the Rancor like shoves his thumb into its like little red eye, and it doesn't really kill it. It can still.
Well,
move,
I know, but you could. There's more he could have done, and why he waited so long. All that stuff is odd.
He's not a trained Jedi, okay? He doesn't know to stab droids in the brain.
He knows to act immediately. He knows to fly up there, and if he's gonna fly up there, do something. Again, I know this is nitpicky stuff. I know, but it's like it's compounding for me. Like every one of these odd decisions is like, wow, it's like, wow, that's not necessary. Oh, that's odd. Okay, and then it starts getting more and more frustrating. And so for me, yes, there's cool moments. It was awesome seeing Boba Fett riding a Rancor. That's so cool. That sentence is just cool in and of itself.
Yeah.
Execution leaves something to be desired at times. So anyway, Mando gets knocked over. The droid is about to stomp on him, but Grogu with his like serious face, he's got this like so funny, this like little angry face.
Yeah.
And he helps by pulling a bolt out of the droid's leg.
Yeah.
With the Force. Forcing it to stumble over and fall over. And then Boba and the Rancor finish it off.
I love
Cool
the
fight
line
scene.
there. When the Rancor has it finally like in his grasp and Boba gives him the Sidious do it.
Do it.
And then he
Do it.
rips it apart. I'm like, that's cool.
That is cool. That is super cool. You know what?
I love anytime in Star Wars somebody tells somebody else to do it, and it's like it's always
Well, yeah, nothing will ever be as good as that
well,
one specific
obviously.
line reading from the Emperor. It's so
But every time I hear
do
it, that's what I think of. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Every time I think of doing anything, I think of that line. So,
Yeah.
hello
Yeah.
there, and that's why enemies say, "Oh, General Kenobi." Okay. Back with the townsfolk and the mods. Drash and the other girl reach the roof. Jo is her name. Reach the roof and take out a couple of the Pikes by surprise and distract the droid. That's the plan, I guess.
Yeah. Shoot at it. So, it was like, Drash is going to shoot at it while Jo takes out the Pikes.
I guess.
So, yeah.
But they still don't have an answer for the droid. But,
no.
So then Boba and Rancor come to the rescue. Another thing, give us the Rancor needs a name. I'm sure the Boba has one for it, but
it's for next season, I guess.
The Rancor and Boba fight the droid with the Rancor taking damage from scratches and blaster shots. He really gets beat up a lot in this episode.
He does.
Actually.
I know. I'm like, man, he's getting beat up pretty bad. And he's still an adolescent too, right?
Right.
He's not fully grown.
He's not full grown.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the Rancor rips off its legs and blasters and pokes its eye out. That's what I wrote.
Yeah.
The rest of the townsfolk chase the Pikes as they all retreat. Everyone, we've won. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
Peli and there's this one funny little scene where Peli Motto and the Major Domo have this like awkward meet cute where they're like, "Oh, nice head tails."
Yeah, like, oh. And he's like, "Oh, thanks."
He's like, "Ooh, blushes."
I loved it. I actually love that little scene. I was like, "Oh my god, I am shipping them now." Into it.
Well, it's a much better couple than than her and the Jawas.
The Jawas. Did you notice her lose a tooth in this episode?
Yes. Oh yeah, totally. She gets knocked out of that thing and then she spits a tooth out, country bumpkin style.
So amazing.
Yeah, I love that too. I like that too.
I do want to note too, with the whole Rancor thing when he eats the Pike.
Oh,
it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a Rancor can eat anything, it's cool.
I know, but you don't play Galaxy of Heroes. So for anyone who plays Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, there's a raid or a battle where you fight the Rancor, right?
Right.
And that's a move that it'll do to like take out your guys. So he does the big like slam. So he'll like, he does that to one Pike later as well.
So you're like, that's a move from the game.
Yeah, there's a little Easter eggs if you play the game. The one where he slams the guy into the ground, that's one of his moves. But then the other one is to pick you up and just eat you, and then you lose your player that you're playing with. Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was just waiting for him to eat someone. So I'm like, yeah, he ate someone. I'm like, and he did the slam move. It's just like in the game.
There's like right after the that he destroys the last droid, there's a couple shots of Boba and the Rancor just wrecking shop, right?
Yeah.
Just breaking stuff. I really like when they go to like hide behind that pillar and he just smashes through the pillar.
Yeah.
I just thought like that's fun stuff. I like when people try to use cover and the cover doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's kind of the end of the main battle. Thoughts on the battle as a whole? Anything that jumped out at you?
Yeah. I mean, well, I just kind of went on my rant about the Rancor eating people, which I was very excited about. I mean, yeah, obviously I love seeing Boba Fett ride a Rancor. I was excited from the moment we got introduced to this whole Rancor and him riding it. So very pumped about that. Really liked all the Mando Boba Fett teaming up parts of the battle. And like, I can admit there were definitely some parts that I didn't like. Like the stupid spin move.
Right.
And,
yeah.
Some of the stuff with the mods.
That spin move is so funny to me because it's like, it's just like this little, talk about zhuzh, like trying to zhuzh it up, but like in the wrong ways.
What? Like, leave that out. And it just makes me dislike the mods even more when they do dumb stuff like that. So
right. It's like, oh, guys, we're trying to like you. Don't do dumb shit. Yeah, I know that.
Like one of the other ones was like dressed really stupid and like a duster, like a beige duster. And I'm like, I'm gonna.
I liked that coat actually.
No, okay.
I liked it. It. Yeah, it's like one of those beige petticoats you can get in the winter. I want one of those. Anyway,
I'm gonna say don't do that.
well, it's not that
As your
one,
friend.
obviously. It's
As
not.
your friend. I'm
No,
telling you
they're
not
nice.
to.
They look good with dress clothes. But
Fair
again,
enough.
this is a battle, so
But yeah,
odd
so
choice.
yes, there's the parts that I loved, parts that I didn't. But I mean, overall, I wasn't really upset about this battle. Like I said, obviously there's a few nitpicks. Um, could have had some different lighting and a little more flair to it, but yeah, I mean,
I just felt like the dramatic stakes were so low. Like it's like
yeah.
really are we get like it's like you're gonna do the bait and switch with everyone dying early on. So it's like
Mhm.
now it's like okay, now definitely no one's gonna die, and
Yeah. That's what I mean. Again, sounds awful. Could have killed more mods.
though I just
For
in my
sure.
opinion, there's a lot of opportunity to make this have weight, and they just didn't use any of those
Yeah.
opportunities. So to me,
Yeah, it seemed
really
almost a
cool
little too
moments
easy, but
interspersed throughout what was a largely lackluster, I think, battle. Right?
okay, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, like kind of what we said, even some like cooler lighting or different lighting really could have amplified this a little bit more, I
Well,
guess, but we
I'd
didn't
also
get
go
that, so
and
that's fine.
we've been complaining about this all season, or at least I have, about how Boba Fett hasn't really done anything that cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, he
And
did
then
some cool stuff in this
he does
episode
a
at
couple
least.
cool things in this one,
Yeah.
but he's hardly like this. He's hardly doing the coolest stuff, and it is his show.
Right. Yeah.
He's riding the Rancor, and he's kind of shooting at stuff. He's shooting at the droid, even though it does nothing.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's the point. He's getting old, getting soft, as
well,
Cad
yeah,
Bane
he
says.
does say that. Speaking
Yeah.
of which, we get to the standoff here. Cad Bane arrives and scares off the Rancor super easily using the
Yeah.
flamethrower. It's super easy,
They don't
barely an
like fire.
inconvenience.
I kind of like this because
Yeah.
in my kind of own headcanon, it was like because the Rancor is such an adolescent and Boba
Right.
doesn't quite have him fully trained yet, that
Right.
it's like the fire just causes him to be like, oh man, I'm out of here, just
Right.
bails. 'cause
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
Still
And
a
then goes
kid.
and just starts messing stuff up on the other side of town.
Yeah, because he's just mad. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We talked about this, like, oh, is there going to be a Boba Cad Bane showdown?
Standoff, yeah.
There was. Cool. But not as cool as I feel like it could have been, necessarily speaking. Mostly
disagree.
because couple odd choices in it. We'll talk
Okay.
about them as they come.
All right.
But also, like, I would have liked some clarity on whether or not the one that was from the Clone Wars that we didn't see had happened or not, right? This
Right.
would have been this would have been like a rematch, quote unquote, of that time. But there's no allusion to that. So it's still
Right.
unclear whether or not that happened. He doesn't mention the big, like, dent in his helmet. Like, if Cad Bane had put that dent in his helmet,
He probably
wouldn't
would have said something.
Wouldn't we want to know about that? And like the other thing that people said, oh, it must have happened because when his hat's knocked off, he has the metal plate on his head, right, where he
Okay,
got
yeah.
shot in that that duel. But
Okay.
I just would have liked. It's like, why if that's the case, let's talk about that. Let's lean into that. And
Maybe we'll
I
get
think
to
that's a
see
missed
it one day.
opportunity.
Still, you never
That's
know.
yeah. Even if we do, this version of it still doesn't reference it at all. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
that's
he
fair.
says like he's like I'm not a little kid anymore. Maybe that's what he's getting at.
I mean,
right?
yeah, it could
But-
be. Mm-hmm.
So he arrives, scares the Rancor off. He's like, I've known you a long time, Boba. One thing I can't figure out, what's your angle, right? And I was like,
Right.
wow, way to ask the important questions here.
Right. That
'cause I'm
everyone's
like,
wondering.
Literally everyone wants to know. I wanted to know the whole season. Remember, we were like, what's the point of any of this, right?
Yeah, you're like, what's his end goal? What does he want? Like,
Right.
Yeah, for sure. We're all curious about that.
And the question and the answer to that is, this is my city. These are my people. I won't abandon them.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that to be unsatisfying. And I'll tell you why.
Right. Okay.
Because this is not his home.
What is
his connection
home,
is
though?
his connection to I don't know. I guess his home is Camino.
Camino?
but-
Yeah.
But like, well, I don't know. All I'm saying is it's like, okay, you were working for a job, but maybe you spent a lot of time here. Fair enough.
Right.
But like, and was it 5 years went by where he was living with the
I
Tuscans?
think so, with
Although,
the Tuscans.
what a terrible way to show a passage of time. It felt like a week.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's assume he gets this strong connection to the Tuscans and their culture and to Tatooine. But like, what connection does he have to the town of Mos Espa? How are they your people?
Right.
You know, why will you not abandon them? Like, we haven't seen you talk to a single regular person except for Garcia, who got blown up last week.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just not. It's not established. There's no. The
Yeah.
work was not done, in my
That's fair.
opinion.
Yeah, I can see that because we don't really know. Like, yeah, like maybe he was working with Jabba for like years on Tatooine, and
Right,
then
and he
spent
really
time
got
with the Tuskens. But
yeah,
you're
he's got
right,
a
we didn't.
hotel room. Maybe he's got an apartment in Mos Espa,
But
you
yeah,
know?
you're right. We didn't really get to see enough of it as to why he feels like this place is his and these people are
Right.
his.
You can't just tell
But
me these are my people, I won't
oh yeah,
abandon them and just me be like, "Oh, okay, just take it face value, like
yeah. Where it's like,
full
why
freight."
does he care so much? We still kind of
Yeah.
need more. But
It's
yeah,
not it's not enough. So that's part of the reason why I find that
fair enough.
unsatisfying. So Boba tells him to stop treating him like he did when he was a boy, and he calls him
Hmm.
an old man. Cool, obviously, because it's like alluding to their history, and obviously
Yes,
we want to
yes.
see that and more of that. Um, and he's like, "I'm still faster than you," Cad Bane says, and he's like, "That may be, but I have armor," which might be the dumbest line I've ever heard in my entire life. It's so stupid. What do you
Yeah.
mean that may be, but I have armor? Okay, cool. And then Boba Fett's response to that, or sorry, Cad Bane's response to that is, "Let's find out. Let's find out if you have armor." I mean, like, what the? Like, I know you're saying I'm faster than you. Let's find out. But
Right.
like,
Yeah.
but no, that's stupid dialogue. I don't know. It seems to me like it was edited out of order. Like they added in, "I have armor, but I have armor in ADR." Like, as if we don't fucking know that. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
See,
find
I
that
didn't, it didn't
completely
bug me
baffling.
as much. But yeah, I understand your qualms with
I'm
it,
really
but
hating on this episode here. I know,
you're
like, I
hating on
just
this interaction a little bit more than I would. But like, it didn't bug me that much. Like, I was kind of just like, they have this history. They're going back and forth a little bit, and yeah, it's getting to the point where like, okay, we're gonna see this final duel now.
mm,
So
I hate because I love
ah,
Rachel, and it's just missed opportunity here. Like, it's
I
just
get it.
not.
I get it. We could have had a little bit
Why are we
better.
dropping these dumb lines about armor when there's so many other cool things we've been talking about in before a shootout,
Right.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? So, we get the standoff, right? They're kind of both standing there and they're kind of ready to draw. Bane wins the draw,
Right.
right? At 74 years old or whatever he is.
He's quick.
But of course we don't know how old that species ages, like how quickly they age in that species.
Actually, I looked that up, and he's old for a
Okay.
Duros.
Okay. Okay.
They tend to only live to like late 60s
Oh, so he's
and
old
early
old.
70s. He's old,
Okay.
old. Yeah, it's like
Okay.
he is old for his species.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And is that canon or is that just like a assumption that we're making off
I
of
don't
other
know.
stuff?
I think it's canon.
Okay. Either way, he's old. He calls him that, an old man,
Yeah.
and so he loses the first draw. He gets shot, but of course his armor protects him. Um, Boba tries the flamethrower, but it doesn't work. And then Bane, being who he is kind of doing a little bit of monologuing. He's like, "Now's the time you jet off back to your back to tank," and it's like, I kind of appreciate that line because I think it's kind of almost a dig at the show a little bit, like
Oh yeah. Or
you know,
I feel like he's kind of calling him a coward too, right? Like
yeah,
it's
yeah, he
yeah.
is.
No, it is a good dig. It's yeah.
And then he's like, "This is my city." Sure, it is. Whatever you
Mm-hmm.
say. And with Boba on the ground, he's reeling. He's got two shots to the armor. Bane starts to do a little bit more monologuing. He's like, "You tried to go straight, but you've got your father's blood in you." Obviously, any allusion to his father, Django, is cool.
Oh yeah. Absolutely cool.
And he's like, "You're a killer, right?"
Yeah.
And I guess the idea here is that again that Bane trained Django, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
So if that's
Which
the
we kind of
case,
get, yeah, a little bit more confirmation on that here,
right?
but
And he's like, "This isn't the first time I beat you out on a job." Again, a lot of these kind of like things that we might see a little bit more detail in it in the future.
mm-hmm.
And then Bane knocks Boba's helmet off and is ready to take him out at kind of point blank range. And he's like, "Consider this my final lesson. Look out for yourself. Anything else is weakness." Now, this is
Right.
obviously, I think this is like a direct analog to the show's themes, which is that you have to have a tribe. It's about found
Right.
family, that kind of thing. That's what makes him strong. Of course, instead of the kind of in my opinion, the best way to prove the kind of the opposite of his statement here would be for someone to help him, but I guess he's helped by the ghost of the Tuscans because he
Well, yeah,
uses
his
his gaffy stick and he knocks him down and he stabs him with the pointy end.
oh,
Yeah.
I really liked it though, like just the way he's able to like knock him down. He
Mm-hmm.
knocks knocks the gun away, knocks the fire away. Like he was just
Right.
very quickly able to, yeah, like and use this. It's just so symbolic. I really really liked it. But
No, I
keep
agree.
going.
I like that. I like the final moment here with the gaffy stick. I
Yes,
do, because
yes.
again, it's rebuttal to his, look out for yourself. Anything else is weakness. Like, oh
Well,
yeah, well, guess what my friends taught me.
and
Bow bow.
his
Right.
last line too, and he's like, what does he say? He's like, "See, I knew you were a killer." Right before
Right.
he
Right.
stabs him, I'm like,
Right.
that's such a good last line for Cad Bane.
Oh,
It's just,
right.
it's
And
so good
so, do
because
you
he's
think he's
basically
dead?
saying like, oh yeah, yes, he's
Yeah.
dead.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Right.
they're not. There was a
What about
moment
blinky
like
light?
later.
He has a blinky light on his chest. You see
No,
that?
he's dead. He
He
stabbed
looks
him like
super dead. Yeah.
immediately in the chest. It's just not like I don't think. Yeah, no, I don't think there's just I don't know. We never know in Star Wars, but just the way that looked like a full blown death.
It did, and it would be
It
a
was a
cool way for him to
death
go out
speech. It was his
because,
last words. Everything.
yeah,
It would be very stupid if they were like, actually, he's not dead. It's like, okay, enough of that
it's
already.
it's
Stop
fitting
bringing people back from the
because
dead.
it's yeah, because literally not at the end of this episode, it's like, oh look, another guy you thought was dead coming back to life.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm fine with him being dead here because he's lived a
me
long
too.
life, and there's lots of opportunities to tell other stories with him in the
Yeah,
past,
like
as it
past
relates
stories
to this.
for
Yeah.
sure.
And it's like, how
Yeah.
many years does he need to be alive? It's like through
Well,
the
that's the
Clone Wars
thing.
and through
Like I
the
said.
Imperial era, and now in the after. It's like, okay,
Yeah, it's like
we
he's
can-
already
yeah.
old. So yeah,
Right.
no, and it's good. It's like the whole him and Boba interaction, and it's almost like those final words are still kind of. He's still goading him. He's still being like, "I'm gonna
Even
get the
after
last
death.
word." Even
Right.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm gonna get the last words. Like, see, I was right. Even though you're about to kill me, like
I think
still
that
right.
blinking light on his chest might mean that he's still alive. That's my opinion on
Alright.
that. He's a pretty resilient guy, right?
Yeah,
He's
I
got those
thought we were
tubes
keep-
in his face for a reason.
yeah. Those are to keep Jedi from using mind tricks on him. Apparently,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's not for
Interesting.
breathing.
It's odd.
Yeah,
They go to his cheeks. Anyway,
I know.
after that, the battle's all over. Everyone's won. Everyone's happy. But there is a little bit of the Rancor is still on the loose. People are freaking out and screaming. They're shooting it with blasters. It's scaring it. So it climbs up a tower like King Kong.
Yeah.
And Mando has a plan. He gives Grogu to Peli and gives Grogu the little ball from the Razor Crest. Again, all these things could have been done a little bit less rushed. And he flies up to the Rancor. He grabs the reins, but he gets thrown off like immediately, and then body slammed through the roof.
I was like, oh,
yeah, and then
punched
thrown like a
Garcia.
half a kilometer, down the street. Like he must have so many broken bones. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
And the Beskar, I guess, really handy here.
Yeah.
And and I love how Peli's like, "Don't worry, kid. Your old man, he's crafty." And then, of course, right after that, he tries to bite his head.
Bite his head with the Beskar.
Yeah.
Tink. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like,
And
spoke too soon.
Yeah. So Mando uses the flamethrower, which results in him getting thrown into the street.
Yeah.
Grogu waddles in front of Mando to protect him,
waddle. I know.
and uses the Force to calm him down, Ezra style.
Love this.
So yeah, like in Star Wars Rebels, Ezra's kind of Force abilities allowed him to be kind of to commune with nature a little bit more than maybe some other Jedi were able to. So
He's
that's
an
an
empath.
ability we've seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess Grogu has some of that too, and is able to put the Rancor to sleep. This, of course, tuckers him out, so they go for a little nap together.
I love how he curls up next to the Rancor. It
reminds me a lot of like when you have like a big dog and like a baby
and a little dog.
Yeah.
I
No, like a
know.
bit like a child-sized baby that's like the dog could easily eat if he wanted to.
Like when you see those cute videos of like a pit bull curling up next to a baby, and people are like, "Oh, look how vicious my pit bull is," and he's like licking a baby and just snuggling him.
Exactly. So just exactly like that is what that's the and then so we get the nice musical cue here, which is of course the same musical cue that they used with the Mudhorn from season 1 of Mandalorian. And again, just one note different from the Force theme. Those do different note. So anyway, I think that's a cool note. And there's a line, like an 80-yard line here from Peli Motto. It's like, guessing there isn't going to be a barbecue, which I think is hilarious because she always wants to like grill something up.
I I
Every time
know.
something dead, he's like, "Well, throw it on the barbecue."
Yeah,
So
just
I
gonna
thought
eat
that
it.
was hilarious. I really dug
Yeah,
that.
you're
I
gonna
thought
eat a
it's
whole
super fun.
rancor? Like what?
So I mean, they ate that whole dragon, that whole crate dragon. I presume they ate a lot of its meat, right?
Yeah, that's true. I would hope so. It's a waste otherwise.
Right. No freezers though. That
Yeah.
sucks. Um, so back at Mos Eisley, the Pikes and the head of the other crime families are all meeting. The Pikes they're deciding to cut and run. They're leaving town. But the heads of the other crime families aren't happy about it. They're like, "You can't leave us here." Then there's like, and then honestly, horror music plays.
Yeah.
Actual horror music. Most of the crime lords are either shot from off screen, but then the mayor is hung from the ceiling.
Yeah.
So brutal, and you even hear like the
She's
next snap.
savage. I
Yeah.
know. It's like that. Yeah, it's very much that like horror scene of like them picking off all the
Yes.
teenagers one by one.
You could also argue that this is also a reference to The Godfather, because at the end of The Godfather, they kind of take care of all their family business. All the other heads of the crime families are killed.
Yes,
So
yes.
this is much similar to this. He doesn't have to compete with them anymore. He can kind of take control over Boba can of all the other crime families here.
Ooh.
And the Pike
be
boss
hell
is
to
stabbed
pay.
in the back by Fennec. The Pike boss being unable to leave might have consequences, right?
That's true. Yeah.
The Pikes might come seeking revenge, right?
Mhm.
Or
I feel, well, yeah.
Crimson Dawn,
Yeah, that's true. Crimson Dawn. Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we get to the epilogue. I call it the epilogue because it's just like the final scene here after everything's
Right.
going on. Boba and Fennec are walking through the streets of Mos Espa. People are bowing to him. He's bowing back. They reference the back to tank is in use. You're like, oh, I bet you that's Santi.
Yeah.
And it's not. And he's like, I thought this exchange was so weird. It's like, oh, we're not suited for this, Boba says. He's like, well, if not us, then who? Says
Right.
Fennec. And I'm like, wasn't this your goal the whole time? I don't understand. What do you mean you're not suited for this? Like he does. I guess he's not used to the pleasantries. I guess.
I think it's the praise and the bowing and the waving. He's like, oh, this is kind of weird. Not used
Yeah,
to
but
that.
like, I don't
I
know.
what you mean.
Yeah, so they meet up with, and then they walk up and they meet up with Chrysanthemum and the mods, and they're all like chuckling. A line about sharing a melon, and they're all like, aren't we all best friends? And then they pan up. I do like the pan transition they do here.
Yeah.
That's a nice little touch. Mando's theme is playing. Mando and Grogu are in the N1 Starfighter. Grogu's tapping the glass annoyingly.
It's so cute.
Mando is saying no,
Tap, tap, tap.
but Grogu's insisting. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
fine, one last time. And Mando hits the booster, and they
Hits
go
the
flying.
nos.
Yeah, and Grogu's happy, and cut to credits.
Yeah.
Post-credit scene, Cobb Vanth is in the back of the tank with that mod surgeon who saved Fennec there to presumably save his life. So, at very least, Cobb Vanth is still alive, because that would have been really shitty. Okay,
Yeah.
we've reached the end. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, for a hot minute at the end there, I thought Cad Bane was in that tank. I was like, did they put Cad Bane in that tank? And I was like, oh, okay, no, it's not. I was like, that would have been insane. Apparently you think he's still alive, so
I think it's possible. I think it's possible. He has that blinking light. You don't zoom in on a little blinking light if it doesn't mean anything. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, all right. Fair enough. But yeah,
maybe he'll be like maybe he'll be even more droid next time. Like maybe he's
like Grievous.
Yeah, maybe he'll be more like Grievous. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean,
I guess that'd be cool.
I will say overall, I didn't hate this episode.
Right.
With comparing it to all of his other episodes that he directed, I like this one the most out of the other two.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, like it's not like my least favorite episode or anything like by far. I thought the Boba and the Cad Bane interactions were really good. I didn't mind the dialogue. Like I said, I like their whole finale there with them. And everything with the Rancor, and yeah, I don't have a lot of qualms about this. I find that they were able to tie everything up in one episode, which I was a little worried that they weren't going to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like they had kind of set the stage for, oh, you're gonna have to fight the Pikes. What else was at stake?
Yeah,
like
I mean, yeah, I could have. I was at the point where I thought it could have gone either way. I would have
almost preferred they lost this episode.
Yeah, me too. I feel like that kind of would have set up kind of a cool thing for next time. Like, okay, what's he gonna do now? Where's he gonna go?
And
but I mean, I guess maybe we'll see that next time, or maybe we'll get to see a little bit more, like not flashbacks, but before this, or
A more like a
you never
anthology
know.
maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I guess we'll
uh,
see.
s-
I mean, I'm not too sure if we get a second season or not, so
yeah,
we'll
so I
find
guess
out. But or whether
that's what
that'll
I
kind of
might.
tie into Mando season 2, maybe we'll get, or season
It's
3.
really hard
Sorry,
to,
Mando
in my
season.
opinion, it's really hard to say because I don't even know if we're gonna get a second season. Never mind a,
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Maybe
you
it'll
know,
tie in more to Mandalorian a bit. Like, well, I don't know.
but
I
like
guess we'll see. But
with this new format where apparently any show can just pop into the middle
it
of
could just
any other
pop in.
show.
Yeah.
Like, are we gonna be halfway through Andor and we're gonna get 3 extra episodes of Obi-Wan? Like,
Hey,
I don't, unlikely, right? So
yeah, I don't know.
I just think if Lucasfilm, if you're listening, and I know you are, Mr. Lucasfilm,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. or Mrs. Lucasfilm, it's either one. If you're listening, I'm saying if you're gonna take one lesson from this season, it's tell one story at a time.
I would agree with
Basically,
that.
I mean, like, obviously, there's room for complex storytelling with lots of layering and all that kind of stuff. That's awesome,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't, and that you can tell multiple stories at once, but
Well,
don't throw another show into the middle of the show you're trying to tell. Don't sideline your main character.
yeah, that's fair.
You never did that to Mando. And you probably won't. Like, if you do pick up Mandalorian season 3 in December of this year,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to pick up with him and Grogu again, and people are going to be confused because if they didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, they're not going to know what the hell's going on.
Yeah,
How is
that's
he
true.
back
Actually,
with Grogu? Like,
yeah,
that's
we're gonna miss all that. Well, I mean, that's
problematic.
your
I
own
think.
fault for not watching other things, though. I
Yeah, but you
think.
can't. I don't like. This is like the argument with Marvel stuff too. Is like, unless you're watching everything, you're not really gonna understand. I can
Yeah, that's
understand that,
fair.
but that was
I
never
just,
the implication. That was never the expectation with Star
I
Wars.
guess,
I don't
but
know.
I
It's
mean,
different.
because Boba was in The Mandalorian,
Sure.
and
Side
so
character.
yeah, I'm not. It to me, it's kind of makes sense that there is that crossover. So I don't see why you wouldn't, as a Star Wars fan, watch both. Like
Mm-hmm.
you know, I feel like that'll be a very rare issue.
Well,
And
I
again,
think
I
this
feel
the
like that's your
viewership
own
for the
fault.
Book of Boba Fett is way smaller, in my opinion, than the viewership
Yeah.
of
Okay.
The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian was huge for them; it's their biggest show. So
Yeah.
I understand why you'd want to use a little bit of the juice from Mando to kind of pick up and help improve your Book of Boba Fett show. But I
Right.
say, it's like you're going to tell a story, have some faith in your storytelling, like commit to
Well,
it.
that,
You
and
know,
I also would say there's no reason why they couldn't have had 2 more episodes and kind of split that up a little bit more, gave us a little bit more Boba Fett, a little bit
sure.
more kind of, like we said, him training with the Rancor, or
There's
just some
lots
other
of
little
stuff.
conflicts. That there is other things that they could have shown us, they could have done to kind of tie this all in a little bit better,
Mhm.
maybe. So it didn't feel like it was
Well, we could
so
have brought in a little bit more of
rushed.
Boba Fett's past to kind of flesh out
Yeah.
his character a little bit more. It's like
Like,
for people coming
yeah.
into this for the first time, a lot of people just know him as the guy who died in the rank in the pit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
that's
it's like,
fair.
okay, he was really cool. Everyone thought he looked cool, but they didn't know anything about his history as a clone or
Right.
how he grew up, abandoned by his quote
Yeah,
unquote,
like if you
abandoned by
haven't
his
watched
father
Clone
and all that
Wars,
kind of
for
stuff. Like
sure.
how you wouldn't know that stuff really.
Yeah.
You might know some of it, but there'd be a lot that you'd have missed. And there was an opportunity to kind of touch on that. They barely mention the fact that he's from
Camino.
Camino. Like,
Yeah.
there's those flashbacks and they're really cool, but it's so light. It's like, we should have really been rooting for Boba Fett at the end of this season, and I don't feel like we ever were given enough information to do that. And that's
Hmm.
in my opinion, that's a shame. So
Yeah, I feel like they just could have given us a little bit more kind of substance
yeah.
with him, and
So
given him the justice a little bit more. But
what do you think? What do you think we get next? What is the next thing? Is it is it
um,
Boba Fett in the Mandalorian, or is it we're gonna get a Mandalorian season 2, or sorry, season 3, of course? But are we gonna get a Book of Boba Fett season 2? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like these things always depend on the reactions of, do people like it or not,
Right.
and if this has been like super hated, they might not. But then we might maybe it's hard because I'm sure the Mandalorian's already like done filming. There's no way that they've
Well, yeah, they're a little. you can do only so much course correcting.
That's what I
think, in the
mean. Yeah.
middle.
So
I mean, there's lots of time. You can do lots of pickups and that kind of stuff. You can do
yeah,
things. Book of
I
Boba
can.
Fett season 2 has hardly been is hardly a guarantee. There's lots of
Yeah,
shows coming. I would like to see a second season that kind of
I would too.
again a little bit more concentrated. Let's
Yeah.
actually spend time with Boba Fett
Yeah.
for real this time. Maybe send him to Coruscant. Something that like really brings him back into the underworld a little bit.
Yeah. Gives
Plays
him a little
homage
bit
to
more.
his like his reputation and his name.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Or gives him a little bit more conflict with who he was and who he's trying to be
Right. That's a
now,
great
right?
point. That's a great
Yeah.
point. Like have the clash between his old life and his new life. It's
Yeah,
coming back
it's
to
like
haunt him. I
right.
like that. And
Mhm.
but again, who knows if we'll even get that? You know,
Well,
he's probably going to play a role in the Mandalorian story still.
I would assume so,
think,
yes.
you
At
know?
least because they like to help each other out. But I mean, hey, like
Exactly.
it'd be very easy to do a second season here, right? Because now people are going to hear that Boba Fett's alive. Like, there's no way that people aren't going to hear that he ran the Pikes out of Tatooine.
Right.
So it's for a little while there, he
Well,
was
or
running under
worse
the
that
radar.
he's like right because he's like it pays to think people
Yeah,
people
so
think you're
people are
dead.
gonna be like, wait, what? Boba Fett ran the Pikes out of Tatooine? What do you mean
Well,
he's alive? Like,
he's
all
also
that, right?
he's
So,
living in Jabba's palace and he's
yeah,
now the de facto king of
yeah. So
Tatooine.
some people are gonna be
Okay,
like,
yeah,
whoa, like that's obviously gonna bring up maybe some old rivalries. Some people are after him, right? So that we can
right.
see more,
Folks
maybe
like
some cool
Han
stories.
Solo,
Yeah,
who's still alive at
exactly.
this point, right?
Yeah, so we can probably see some really cool content in a second season now that we've kind of got this whole Tatooine stuff figured out.
Right.
And yeah, so
Bring back what's his name as Han Solo. What's
oh
his name
yeah,
from
from
Solo?
Solo. Yeah, he was good.
Eichenberg. It's a weird name. Anyway, bring him back
Mm-hmm.
and then just do some facial stuff and whatever. You don't even need to do that. He already did that. Just bring him back. You have him play. I don't know. He's like a full grown man in this, but I don't know. You can make it work.
Yeah,
You can make
yeah.
it work. You can do it. If they can do Luke, they can do Han. They can do Leia. It doesn't. There's some cool opportunities here. I would hope to see them pay that off. A little bit more gritty, I think, would be nice in that second season if they do it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we'll probably see him again sooner than that anyway in Mando season 3. Okay. I want to mention again, just because I talked about it on the show on Tuesday, which I posted yesterday, 2 days ago for when you're listening to this on the feed, about Luke's voice. So we were talking about how his voice sounded weird last week.
Right. Yeah.
The reason for that is it's not Mark Hamill's voice being digitally altered. It's
okay.
that Mark Hamill's voice was inputted into a machine, and then the machine is reinterpreting Luke's voice, giving us new dialogue.
So
Isn't that yeah?
okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense because it a lot of people were saying, and even like we were kind of talking, like it did seem a little cold. Like
Yeah,
it would be
100%.
like, so it makes sense if it was a literal computer talking.
It's an actual computer talking from a computer
Mhm.
face.
I
So
wonder why they did that. Like maybe Mark Hamill just wasn't interested in doing
Well,
it or wasn't
I don't think
available.
Mark Hamill's voice is just not the same as it was.
That's
35
fair.
years
It just
ago.
didn't make sense to.
There's
Yeah.
it's. I think Mark Hamill's still involved
Okay.
in the process. My understanding is like he's still helping guide the performances and that kind of stuff.
I
But
get that, but at the same time, it's like, can you really not put a call out there for
a,
like voice actors or
a sound
someone
alike.
like
Right.
you're not going to tell me that there's no impersonator out there
It's
that can't
somehow easier to
do
use
that
a computer
voice?
than it is to
Yeah,
just
I
find
mean,
someone who can
'cause then
sound
you
like
don't have
Luke.
to pay a real person, I guess. But
Like I think a voice actor who sounds close enough, it'd still sound better than a robot voice.
better than a robot with like no warmth
Yeah.
to their voice.
Right.
Yeah.
So I they're still learning. This is still it's an
Mhm.
evolution. Obviously, his
Of
face
course.
looked 10 times better. So maybe next
It
time we
looked
see him,
great. Yeah.
his voice will sound 10 times better. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's true.
that's what I'm holding out hope for. Generally speaking, I'd like less robots performing in my shows. Just
Yeah.
generally speaking.
All
So
right. Well, all those voice actors out there, you just got to do what the deepfake guy did and show how much better you can do the dialogue,
right,
and then you'll get hired by
exactly.
Disney. So
Yeah, exactly. So look, it's an opportunity. You got to think about it as an opportunity.
yeah.
So
Exactly.
okay, so I think that is enough. We've recorded for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. The Book of Boba Fett, not a perfect show, but lots of great moments, some really cool stuff. Definitely sets up some really interesting things for for Mandalorian season 3 and what the future holds for the rest of the Star Wars shows. We know Obi-Wan's coming, so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the season as a whole?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think from what we've already covered, it would just be like beating a dead horse at this point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I get
So, I
it.
mean, yeah, obviously there's things we loved, things we didn't. I love the introduction of a lot of these new characters, so I'm just excited that hopefully we can kind of see more of the characters we loved and less
Mm-hmm.
of the characters we didn't.
Yeah,
So,
that's the
yeah.
or make us care about those characters.
Yeah.
That's really the like you can introduce
Yeah.
literally any character you want. I care more about the nameless Twi'lek in this episode than
Yeah.
I do about the mods, and I think that
That's
speaks volumes about this season. So
yeah.
there's lots to learn here if you're Lucasfilm. They're still trying to get a handle of this live action thing. So
Right. Yeah.
on TV. So I sympathize there. We're in a world where we don't even know when the next Star Wars movie is. So the fact
Right.
we're getting anything at all is amazing.
It's great. Yeah. Hey,
We're
I'm excited to dig into
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to chat more in a couple months to everybody here. So
Yeah. So for those who may not be aware, we do like to take breaks between the shows that are dropping. And the name is Small Screen Star Wars, so we cover Star Wars on the small screen.
yeah.
So who knows if we have a bonus episode here or there, depending on if we did a Visions special, obviously once we did
Right.
that fun Star Wars Oscars episode that we did that was fun.
We have talked about doing another one of those.
Yeah, maybe
Type,
a slight tweak on it. Maybe our
Yeah.
opinions have changed. There's different questions to ask. We'll
There's
see.
new characters now that we can
Yeah,
pick from.
exactly. Yeah. So there, not saying this is the last you'll hear of us until Obi-Wan comes out, but it's possible that it is. So we'll be taking a short break, but if you want to keep up with more stuff that we're doing, you can, of course, listen to Rachel and I and Jeremy from the Tower of Babel podcast review movies monthly for the film club. You can do that by heading over to patreon.com/film Tower Babblecast and supporting the show there and getting access to those bonus podcasts. You can listen to our regular show, the Tower of Babel podcast, where we cover more of a broader range of pop culture stuff, but still more on that nerdy bend, that more genre bend. And yeah, otherwise, if we don't talk to you, we'll be back in May with Obi-Wan, and we'll talk to you then. May the Force be with you.